Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the PUDcast with Jason and Mike. I'm Jason.
I'm Mike.
And we're coming to you from the PUDcave, located in Game Swap in beautiful downtown Lincoln in the great state of North Carolina. Mike, brother, what we got going on today?
Dude, I'm telling you what, this is going to be probably one of my favorite episodes of all.
Ever.
Yeah.
Possibly the most controversial episode of all time because, Mike, brother, we got somebody extremely, extremely special in the PUDcave today.
Absolutely. But before we get to that,
All right.
it's been one of those weeks.
We've had a pretty good week, bro.
Well, okay, you say that.
Well,
I'm glad you have.
I've had a pretty decent week,
right.
man. Compared to last week, it's been a lot better.
It's about the same over on this side.
Got any more scooters in?
Oh my God. Oh, you were here for the one scooter.
Oh, the guy tried to pawn the watch off yesterday?
Yeah.
Oh, man, that guy wasn't on meth or nothing, was
No.
he? Oh, Jesus Christ, man. Hey, man, y'all need a watch? No, motherfucker's a game store.
It's a game store, man.
Not a fucking watch store.
Yeah, it's not a watch store, sir.
He tried to argue a little bit, but
A little bit.
He looked like he was desperate, man.
He said I just had a car accident, man. I need to.
He was bandaged the fuck up too, dude. He had all kinds of shit on. For
It was
real.
in certain places though, so I'm not sure about the whole.
I saw the arm.
Yeah,
You know,
well,
a little
you
bit
know.
looked like you had a little puncture wound in the arm.
So I don't know. I mean, yeah.
We sent him up to the jewelry store.
Yeah, sorry about that.
Oh yeah,
Sorry
man.
about that, Tom.
Well, I hope them motherfuckers don't know we did that
Yeah.
shit, man. We get
It's a
fucking.
good watch. It's a good price.
Hey,
What
it
can you
looked like
say?
a nice watch. I ain't gonna lie, man.
Yeah.
I bought that motherfucker.
Well, I just didn't want to have it in my possession.
Nah. I ain't gonna put that shit on Facebook or nothing, but.
No. But here's something else that happened this week, and this is not even to me. It's kind of popped up on Facebook. I don't know. You may have seen it. We haven't talked about it yet. Talking about somebody losing something. I'm sure everybody is familiar with Lincoln's Todd.
Oh yeah, Crazy Todd.
Crazy Todd.
Yeah, man. We'll
Okay.
go in a little bit into Crazy Todd for here in a minute, Rev. Yeah.
But
He's a staple here in Lincoln.
if you check out, somebody actually took a picture of it. It's on Facebook. If you're familiar with Todd, you know Todd's always around town.
Right. Got the big shopping cart.
Big shopping cart. you know.
Motherfucker got Wi-Fi by now, man.
I'm telling you. But what happened this week is they had one of the city trucks, the big one with the claw,
Yeah, right.
pick up the cart.
Fuck that, man.
No, I'm serious,
What?
dude. I'm serious.
All right, this is the first time I'm
a
hearing this
fucking heart
shit, dude.
attack,
This
dude.
is fucking controversial right here, bro.
Sir.
So, for the Reverend here, we do have a guest, man. So
Yes.
let's explain a little bit to the Reverend here what or who Crazy Todd is, man. Crazy Todd's he's crazy.
Mm-hmm.
He's I don't know if he's actually
He's
homeless.
eccentric.
He's
you know,
eccentric.
For sure.
There's
you
a
know.
lot of legends, urban legends surround this guy. Like he comes from a lot of money, and he just decides to live on his. Nobody, I don't know if anybody really knows his story, Mike. I mean, he's just like really big cut.
Better for worse, he's off the grid.
He is way off the grid,
Yeah.
man, and he has got this shopping cart. When I was a kid, he had this shopping cart. And, you know, it had shit in it, you know. Bro, now this son of a bitch. How tall do you think that shopping cart is at full potential, man? I would say it's over 6 foot tall. I mean, the whole thing. I mean,
Shit. I mean, Todd's probably a good
he's
6
6
himself.
himself, yeah.
So you're talking probably
7?
Probably tops out at about 7, 8 at times.
Swear to
it's not
God.
the same stuff. It's not exactly the same stuff. He kind of switches stuff.
Yeah,
out,
he's got
you know.
different carts for different days. I guess.
I've seen a car fender.
kind of like Batman has different suits.
So
for
this is the
different shit.
local eccentric.
Yes,
Right,
man.
right,
Yeah, this
yeah.
is one of our big characters, man. And maybe the character
The,
in Lincoln.
yeah,
Yes.
for sure. But I've seen a car fender on the front of the shopping cart at one
A
time.
fender like a real car.
Yeah, it looks like it could transform at any time.
Oh no, shit, man! When I was younger, the first time I remember seeing this cart, he had a fucking fan propeller on the front of that, something like an airplane. But it was, I mean, and he was wearing that. And let me describe Todd to you, Reverend man. He is a bit. He's a black man, and he's a big cut motherfucker. On
Okay.
top of that, I mean, he
Oh,
looked like he
he-
could
he-
straight up
oh,
fuck you
dude.
up if he.
Oh, for sure.
If he got on his wrong side, man, and I will see him shadow box like in
Right.
front of the Walgreens. He'll just be shadow boxing and. But yeah, man, he is a staple of Lincoln. He actually burnt down the fucking hotel, didn't he, Mike? Didn't he
No
burn down?
shit.
Yeah, man.
Allegedly.
Allegedly, he
Allegedly.
burned down the Carolina motel. Yeah.
What's
Well,
the
not
story behind
purposely,
that?
no.
Well, we don't know. I heard.
I don't think it was purposefully.
Yeah, because I heard he was trying to cook some food or something over a fire, and in the hotel room, I guess. And needless to say, man, Carolina Motel ain't here anymore. It's where the new Walmart is now.
Damn.
Well, that place was.
That place is.
So it was on its way out.
Oh yeah, man.
If there was
yes.
anything that could clean that place, it was gonna be fire.
Fire, cleansed by fucking fire, man.
And I still say to this day that Walmart, the super Walmart that's over there, is actually built on the sacred burial ground of hookers.
Yeah, no shit.
And hookers.
And meth addicts. Too much, motherfuckers.
Just the overdoses and dead hookers.
Man, dude, you'll never fucking, But the roaches survived. I am happy to say, man, how the roaches actually made it. And brother, they had them in space.
That's a
up there,
Poltergeist
man.
remake waiting to happen.
Oh, dude.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
We definitely. Hell, they just need to make the story about Todd, man. That'd be the most scary, fucking interesting, probably hilarious movie ever made. But what's up, man?
I'm trying to find that. Okay. So one of the city trucks, the big trucks, like I said, it was a big claw.
Kind of like one of the damn toy
apparently-
machines,
Apparently they had told him before, several times, just to keep the car off the sidewalk.
Okay. Right.
Todd's Todd.
He ain't gonna do that shit. No.
Yeah.
Where else he gonna put the motherfuckers?
I
I figured it's
I
because
don't
he
know.
wasn't clearing bridges.
Well, I mean,
Some bitch is so tall.
I knew you would see it on the sidewalk, usually around Hardee's.
Oh yeah, man, that was kind of one of his spots. Yeah.
So he'd leave it there and go do whatever he had to do and
Crazy
stuff.
Todd business,
Right.
Add to the collection.
Well, apparently, I guess whenever he wasn't around, they just decided, hey, we need to pick this thing up now, and somebody had actually taken a picture. I'm trying to find it now, and of course, that's not happening.
Nah. But man,
I'd even like to go to Crazy Todd's Facebook site, but I don't even think it's on there.
I don't think that's really Crazy Todd on there either.
For better or for worse.
Fan page.
Yes, man, he does, dude. This motherfucker's like got cult-like status. Dude, I'm pretty sure whoever,
Is that a Beetlejuice picture?
Yes, that was.
Yes.
Yeah, I mean.
Now that's fucked up. I mean, shit,
to put
man.
it mildly.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure the Crazy Todd actually doesn't run this page. Yeah, man. Maybe. Well, dude, I hope he gets it back, brother. I don't like that because.
I don't think he's getting it back.
I mean, it's gone for
No,
forever
yeah.
now.
Have you ever seen those trucks?
Oh yeah. Oh fuck yeah,
with
man.
the
Yeah.
claw? Oh yeah, it's
It's
done.
gone, man.
It's
If
done. Yeah.
man, maybe we can try to pull together and get the man a new cart. Well, I'm sure
That
he's.
wouldn't be a bad idea.
Yeah, let's all try to pull it together. Cause man, that man ain't got a whole hell of a lot. Unless you
ain't a
believe the
bad
fucking
idea.
urban legends, he's a millionaire and decide, and chooses
Right.
to live on the street. Which I've heard that one since I was a kid too. But,
Carts aren't hard to come by. It's more the,
they got a
the,
shitload
the
of
principle
Walmart,
of the
man.
thing.
It's the principle,
Yeah.
bro. You just don't fuck with Crazy Todd in
Come
Lincoln.
on, man.
I mean, it's
was
Crazy
it
fucking
hurt-
Todd, man.
Was it really hurting that much?
Fuck no. But man, I tell you what, brother. We first of all, thoughts and prayers to Crazy Todd.
Absolutely.
Absolutely as always. And but man, I tell you what, let's introduce the man we got in the studio with us today,
Yes,
brother.
sir.
This man is a good friend of mine. I haven't seen in almost, I guess, 10 years.
Yeah,
give
right
or
about
take,
10.
man. Right around 10, and that's a shame. And brother, I hope today is the first of many, man, because it is good seeing you.
Agreed.
And we've already been talking before air, but we got a special man in the house, and that man goes by the name of the Reverend Doctor. And brother, you are a Reverend. You are ordained, correct?
Correct.
And you have 2 doctorate degrees. as
Correct.
well. So you are, Mike. We have a doctor in the fucking house. Is what we're trying to say. Damn, dude, we're coming up.
Who ever thought that?
Dude, no shit, man. Only doctor I thought I'd ever get would be a mental. I mean,
I figured at some point we were gonna have a reverend in here just to.
well, yeah.
Yeah.
We may ask you to do a couple. If you can maybe do a couple reverend spells, whatever the fuck they call them.
Reverend
I don't know,
spells.
man. I don't fucking. I'm a PUD. Come on, but I'm gonna tell you who ain't a PUD. Well, maybe he is a PUD. I don't know, but that's the Reverend. Because today, before I go too far, I consider this man to be the most interesting man on my Facebook, by far. And we're going to be talking conspiracy theories. And man, these things can range anywhere from the bizarre and kind of maybe even hokey to, really fucking scary, man.
Absolutely.
And I wanted to get somebody in here who knew their shit, who was educated, And you're not biased either, are you, Reverend? I mean,
No, I'm really not.
You're not a conservative. You're not a liberal, man. You don't really adhere to any of these my team versus your team.
No,
bullshit.
not at all. I'm somebody who just calls it like I see it.
Exactly, and that's why, man, we wanted to bring you in here to give you a voice. And you know, Reverend, we're just gonna go ahead and kick it off, man. And me and Mikey were talking a little earlier. Our first introduction to conspiracy theories in general was through the Alan Handelman show. Do you remember that show? Or he was on WRFX. This was back in the day, man. This may have been a little before your time.
That one definitely was, I think, before my time. It's not ringing a bell.
But I tell you who he would have on his show, and I know that you've heard of, and that's Mr. William Cooper.
Absolutely.
And that was my first introduction to this stuff. And he was, at this time, the first time I heard him, Ben, he was putting over his new book. It was new at the time, Behold a Pale Horse.
Right.
I bought that book. I read that book about 16 or 17 years of age. I didn't understand shit, dude. I don't even really remember much of it. There's little bits and pieces. I just know after I read that book, it changed my life because I'm like, all the stuff I've been hearing and seeing maybe isn't exactly what they've been selling.
Definitely.
You know what I'm saying? Now, whether or not I'm saying what, and you know, Mike, I want to go ahead and say, to both you guys and to the PUDs out there, I don't know what's real, man. I don't know what's true. I don't know if these things are real or not. Man, hell, I don't know much of any fucking thing.
I think that's how everybody from, especially our age group, really came up. Is, especially growing up in the South, everybody knew that one person, whether it was a uncle or whether it was a cousin or a neighbor, somebody who was big into JFK.
Yeah, perfect example.
And
man.
A lot of people from our age, I think their introduction to it was 9/11.
Yes.
I firmly believe that's our generation's JFK. People are going to be researching that and dorking out over details till the day they die.
Yeah, and just like JFK, we'll never know, man.
Yeah. No.
I even think with our age, I knew I grew up reading a lot of the UFO stuff with Project Blue Book.
Yes,
and
man.
That's where I started seeing a lot of stuff. And like you said, with Alan Handelman, that was that just fed more into that. Just that want to know, what's really going on.
Yeah, and I think that's sort of the bottom line to it. Is we have an entire generation, and really beyond that, honestly, of people who look at the world and say something's not quite right here, and I don't know what it is. I just know that the official story they're feeding me is bullshit.
It's bullshit, right, man? Exactly, and just like JFK, I think we all know that there's way more to that than a lone gun. Once again, I don't know this shit for sure, but man, come on. I mean, there's so much that's going on in that situation. And I know we're going to get into 9/11 today. I mean, I know we're going to get into that.
Right.
Once again, I don't know what happened, man. I don't. But I know that you're not going to run 2 airplanes into 2 buildings and have this massive destruction and be able to find fucking passports.
And have 3 fall.
Yes, yes. I mean, come on, man. There's something going on. What's going on? I don't know. Was Bush in on it? I don't know. I don't think so. Honestly, I really don't. But
something maybe. I read somebody write that sort of hit me when I first read it is they said, if I were to tell you that two airplanes were going to fly into 2 skyscrapers, make 3 fall, that in 20 years they're still going to be finding pieces of the plane.
Right. Jammed
between buildings, pieces of bone fragments in lower Manhattan, but that in the first several hours they found the passports,
man.
Yeah.
You would think that's the plot to a D-grade movie from the Sci-Fi Channel.
Sure.
I was going to say not even a good movie.
Right.
You know what I'm saying?
Right.
It's almost insulting to a certain degree. Once again, now I can almost kind of get behind the idea of like people in the government, people that have to handle this stuff, damage control, as you say. I could see them being like, okay, we got to get a story out here. We got to. People are going to demand answers. To this day, I wonder if they even know who did it. If it wasn't some government conspiracy, which I don't. Man, I hate to think it would be that, but hell, who knows?
I tell you, at that time, and you know this as well as anybody, I was not a big Bush fan.
Oh, I wasn't either, brother. I was not either.
All.
No, me neither. Could not stand George
for,
W.
Right, I don't
the
think
most part, I thought
anybody our age was.
No, seriously.
He was probably one of the biggest idiots I've ever seen in that
position, I guess?
Position of power.
Up until recently, maybe.
Until recently.
Well,
you're the biggest dumbass I've ever known, but so many
Up until
more dumbasses have come along. That,
and I think over the years I've sort of rethought my opinion on W. Bush anyway. I think he was a stooge,
Oh,
but
yeah.
I don't think he was pure evil in the way his father was.
I think W Man was easily manipulated.
Right.
Right.
Now, don't even get me started talking about Cheney. On the other hand, I think that son of a bitch.
He might have been the power behind the throne there.
I wonder, man. I mean, I damn near wonder if that son of a bitch is a straight up demon.
Right.
Sometimes. I mean, just to
He's
throw
a
it out
terrible
there.
shot anyway.
Hey, man, we
Yeah.
know that much. And you know, man, this 9/11, this is one of the prime examples of something just being downright terrifying. You know,
Yeah.
that anyone in our government may have been behind it. Once again, I don't know if that's the case or not, but I guarantee you, in my opinion, and once again, my opinion, I believe they took that fucking opportunity and ran with it, dude. And I think that's why we ended up in Iraq. And I think
Of course
that was,
they did.
yeah, they took it, man. What is it? Take no, or don't let any tragedy go to waste.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You know, and that's what I think. Now, once again, I would like to think that they didn't have anything because when Bush, I'll never forget that interview, or not the interview, but when Bush found out about 9/11, he was with those kids doing the reading thing.
Mhm.
The look on that guy's face to me looked like he just shit himself. Like,
Yeah.
how could you be in on something? And I don't think the man's that good of an actor. But, you know, once again, man, that's just kind of my take on it.
Right.
You know?
Well,
I think,
let me ask you this. We talk, when we talk about 9/11, we talk about the World Trade Center.
Right.
But what's your opinion on the Pentagon and the United 93 aspect?
Well, now, United 93, I'm going to be completely honest with you, Ben, I don't know. Well, I don't know about any of this shit. Once again, let me say that. I don't know enough to really give any kind of opinion. But, man, you're not going to tell me the fucking Pentagon was an airplane. I've not seen anyone who's ever
No.
believed that. That was a fucking rocket, man. That was a fucking bazooka, I think. And I think it was really targeted to hit a certain area where I believe the paperwork for that $15 trillion.
Well, here's the story
what is
behind.
that?
Here's the
Yeah.
story behind it from everything I've read over the years is that this was supposedly a hijacker who had gone to flight school in America,
Right.
and the instructors came out later on and said this was a guy who couldn't even handle a single engine plane.
Right.
But the story that they told on 9/11 was that he went in a 540 degree, I believe it was a 1,500-foot descending corkscrew turn,
Okay.
went parallel with the ground and hit directly in the budget analyst office,
Now,
where the day before, Rumsfeld had announced that I believe around $3 or $3.5 trillion was missing.
Yes. The day before, on September 10th. This
Right.
happened on September 10th.
right.
Now, let me ask you, man, I'm not a pilot, man. I don't know anything about flying airplanes, but that sounds like a pretty goddamn complicated move for a rookie.
Absolutely.
I mean, for real. And to my knowledge, no real parts of this airplane were really ever discovered. They said it just like disintegrated.
Right.
Which, including the black box made of titanium.
Yeah.
Okay.
Right.
So, yeah, man. Now, I'm going to be honest with you. Now, Ben, this is just my opinion, Mike. You know, this is my opinion. I wonder if that was just a coincidence. I wonder if that attack happened and somebody's like, holy shit, we just got a fucking home run here. Go take that motherfucker out right now.
That's always a
I
possibility.
wonder that myself, man, if it was just happy circumstance. But I don't know.
Right.
But to say an airplane hit that motherfucker, I can't buy that, man.
Right.
I personally cannot buy that.
Well, the devil's in the details, and another aspect of it that I've never bought for a second was they even made the movie about it. The United 93 was
Yes.
that the name of it?
yes,
Right.
sir. Yes.
The story, to sort of recap, is that the plane got hijacked and everybody on board had time to whip out their cell phones and call their families,
Right.
and then they took the plane back and crashed it in a field.
Right.
I'm sorry,
It
I have
just-
never bought
It
that.
just doesn't sound
It's a good story.
feasible.
think-
it is a great
It-
story.
It's a great story.
My personal opinion is that the Air Force, NORAD, somebody shot the plane
Took it
down.
out. Took him out.
They said, okay, the World Trade Center, the Pentagon has already been hit, or at least this is the story we're going to run with on the nightly news.
Right.
This would cap it off.
Yes. Right.
Because I don't think the public would be able to handle,
one more crack. You know.
or
Because-
that the government shot it down.
Yeah. Right.
'Cause
Right.
the-
Right.
There were reports that day, the day of, and I was there. I watched every bit
Oh,
of
yeah.
that godforsaken day. That was everything that had to do with everything, and they had reported at one time that it had been shot down.
I think I remember that as well.
I remember it too.
Yeah, I remember hearing that as well. Yeah.
But
Yeah.
then they went back and said no, the people had taken it over and it
pretty much gave him an historic end.
Right.
Pretty
Yeah.
much
Right,
took it out of
right.
storybook type. It's like we got to
Um,
get a win.
And,
here.
and you could feel it
Right.
at that point when, they said, well, when it had been reported that it had been shot down, you can kind of feel that turn of people like,
What the
why?
fuck? Yeah,
Why did-
yeah, yeah.
Why?
And with all
Why-
this other
why did that
tragedy.
happen? Why?
Right.
Let's just play with this angle for a second. Let's say that this went down as it happened, or as the news reported. Well, this would be sort of a cap off to the angle. Them
Right.
being able to come on the news and say, "Hey, this was American heroism."
Exactly, man. Exactly. It actually gives the public something to.
It's a
martyr.
feel-good, happy ending.
Yeah, it's a martyr.
Happy-ish ending.
Yes,
Right.
yes. At least to this big tragedy, at least we can have a man. At least these people took out that plane themselves.
And I don't know about either you two guys. I've flown on a plane.
Yeah, I've been
Not,
on one,
I mean, even just recently, several years ago. And I know cell phones don't work for shit
No,
on
man,
airplanes.
absolutely not. No, exactly.
And you're telling me
No,
that in
in
2001, when
2001,
technology
yes,
Right.
17
was
fucking years ago.
that much more
phones.
primitive,
Yeah, hell, man, I didn't even have a fucking cell phone back then. I mean, I
Right.
didn't. Hell, if you had a
Yeah.
cell phone, that was a big fucking deal at
Yeah.
that particular time.
so you're telling me that everybody on board whipped out their cell phones
To do all
and
this.
the signal went through perfectly to all their loved ones, and they all said, "We're taking this bitch back."
Yeah, and 17 years later, you
Yeah.
can't even get a fucking signal on one.
Right.
It's like, yeah.
Right.
Come on.
Yeah, I mean, once again, man, I think you said it perfectly. This is our generation's, JFK.
Yeah.
Because, we're me and Mike are kind of the age of, we were coming out of JFK,
Yeah.
because that was
Oh,
the
yeah,
big
for
thing that we
sure.
always,
Yeah.
would talk
We saw
about.
the Reagan stuff. We'd seen the Bush Senior stuff.
That's
we
right.
saw all that.
All
and
that.
that was
Playing out,
that was not a fun time.
No.
That whole senior reign. God,
Yeah.
that was
I don't know how to feel too much about Bush. Well, I do.
the only thing we
I
got.
do,
The only
actually.
thing we got good out of Bush Senior, his whole term, was some really good music.
Oh, yeah, man. Oh, yeah. I mean, that was some
Well, that's what
great
Republican
stuff.
presidencies tend to be good for.
Yeah,
Exactly.
to get the,
I mean,
the
with
artists.
this one, we've got mumble rap, but
Yeah, well, shit, man.
I'm not
fuck.
sure what happened.
now I'll tell you this though: the idea of this being our generation's JFK, the thing I really find fascinating about this, and I was thinking about it the other day, is that because of YouTube, because of really just the internet age, I suppose, we have kids, teenagers, people in their 20s or 30s who know more about the events of 9/11 than the people who put together the commission report.
No shit.
Right.
There are
Exactly,
if you
yeah.
go on sections of Reddit, sections of 4chan, there are kids who can tell you what happened down to the minute.
You're right.
Whether you're talking thermodynamics, whether you're talking where the hijackers were from, theories about it of other governments, whether it be Saudi Arabia, whether it be Israel, whether it be our government,
Right.
and they can tell you more about it than, like I said, the people who put the commission report together.
Yeah, that were actually there in high positions when the shit went down. You
Yeah.
know. And man, let's kind of switching gears. Let's talk a little bit about JFK, man. What's your take on that? Obviously,
Man, JFK is like probably the subject for an entire show in and of itself.
Exactly.
oh yeah, man. I mean, I know a lot of this stuff we want to talk about. We could definitely extend on, and Rev, we're just gonna go on and say right now, man. I'm sure you're gonna be back. I mean, this
for
isn't gonna be
sure.
a
Yeah,
one
well, I
a
appreciate
one
it.
shot
One
deal,
shot,
brother.
yeah.
No, man. By any
Well, let me
stretch.
ask you this, okay? Because I wanted to ask you, what do you, I guess, what do you consider yourself? Would you consider yourself a conspiracy theorist? Because I feel like that title is kind of
I consider myself a conspiracy realist.
okay.
Oh man, I like
See,
that.
I like that a
I
lot.
like
better
that a
because
lot.
the
Yeah.
conspiracy theorist title has really
Got some negativity attached.
it
Man.
does.
It really does.
It
And
was a
maybe-
term
maybe
that the
even some
media invented
cartoony-
back in the day to malign people who didn't buy into the mainstream narrative.
Right.
Makes perfect sense, man. I mean, if you don't want somebody to, or if you want to discredit someone from believing you, then that would be the way to do it.
Exactly.
Right.
That would absolutely be the way to do it. But yeah, Mike, that's a good point. It's, I don't want to get to too much into modern day politics stuff because that's something the PUDs, man, we've said from day one. We're going to try to stay out of like the politics of it. But it does seem like if you question too much nowadays, you're just
Right.
Right.
you know, man, you're
you
giving
get
us
lumped into that.
yeah, man, and you're just automatically this kind of person. And I'm like, wait a minute, I'm just questioning the official story. I'm not saying whether I think it's real or not. I'm just questioning it.
Right.
But now I'm one of these, far right wingers or something. And I'm like, man, anybody knows me knows I'm far from fucking right wing. You know what I'm saying? But I think we got to be careful with that in society. That's just my opinion. I think that's something that could become dangerous.
No, you do. And I'll tell you this: how we talked earlier, and like I said, I don't consider myself a conservative. I don't consider myself a liberal. Far from it. The way I look at it, right wing and left wing belong to the same bird.
Same bird.
Right.
Yes, I had an instructor in college that said the same thing, and man, that stuck with me. That stuck with me to this day.
Yeah.
And that was about the time I was getting turned on to William Cooper and things of that nature. But yeah, man, I totally agree with that.
Yeah. And now I got to ask your opinion, since this isn't something we're going to talk about for very long. But when you're talking modern politics, what's your opinion on what's going on right now?
I'm scared, man. I'm gonna be completely honest with you. I get worried because I don't know, man. I'm just kind of the kind of person I can be a little sensitive, to be honest with you. That's why I kind of steer away from the Facebook stuff now.
Yeah.
It gets to me because I get like kind of riled up, So I just kind of stay away. But man, I'm seeing a lot of just meanness to people on both sides, man. And it's not a left thing, it's not a right thing. It's more of a personality type thing, and depending on where those people fall. But man, I mean, I'm seeing shit. And that's another reason I stay off Facebook.
It's 2018, and a lot of these people are acting like we're still back in the 1960s, 70s.
Yeah. In some cases, man, I agree with that. What gets me, dude, is just well, you're an idiot, you're stupid, my side's right, and what I just said could be for either side.
Yeah,
it goes both ways.
Everybody's devolved it down to, a team sport.
Dude, I call it the Redskins and the Cowboys is what I'm calling it right now. Because it really feels like it's a fucking foot. And I don't like football, so I'm over here like, what the fuck are y'all talking about?
And the fans,
the marks.
Yeah.
I mean, let's
pretty
call
much
it.
the marks are
you got to call it what it is.
It is,
my
man.
team,
We just scored a point.
my team.
Yeah, man. And it's scary. To me, politics should be fucking boring. Like C-SPAN. That should be the most excitement you ever get out of politics. And dude, with CNN, Fox, and all the social media, it's sensationalized it and it's turned it into entertainment.
That's sort of the opinion I've come to, is that the media is maybe our biggest issue right now as far as the way people perceive the world, because it's so biased in one direction or another, and it's so clearly entertainment. It's a less entertaining WWE.
I totally agree, man. Yes.
And I think that what's going on in the presidential scene, and this is just my opinion, okay? And I'm going to say this from the outset. I don't want anybody listening to just swallow what I'm saying 100%. I want you to research
Hell
it.
Yes.
And
put in some work, man.
Right, exactly.
Yeah, put in a little work yourself.
Yeah. And the idea I've come to, and I firmly believe this, is I think what's going on, even though the media dresses it up as something different than it is that what we've got is a rich man's feud going on in Washington. Yeah. I think that Washington for years now has been, I mean, I can't even say for years now, this has been going on forever.
Yes.
That you have this inner core, whatever term you want to call them. And a lot of these guys are Masons or skulls and bonesmen.
Yes.
And Trump, okay, think of Washington almost like it's a country club.
Okay.
Right? Trump is the guy pulling up in a Camaro wearing gold chains after he just won the lottery.
Is he Rodney Dangerfield in Caddyshack?
Yes. That's exactly what I was going to get to.
Make that comparison. I hate to make that comparison.
I think that's all that's going on.
Right.
It's just that he's the tacky new guy on the scene, and they don't like him for that reason.
Because he says what? Now I'm not a Trump supporter, quote unquote. I didn't vote for him. I will put that much out there. I do support the country and the president, man. I mean, I like the whole trying to get peace with South Korea. That shit's cool. I like world peace. And so I'm not gonna sit here and dog him out or put him over that much. But it really feels to me that he just doesn't give a shit. He says what he wants to. He's in the fucking WWE Hall of Fame, man. I mean, we pretty much have a fucking wrestler.
Good point.
Basically, as the president, and I can understand why the establishment would hate that shit. Now, like I said, my personal opinions of the man isn't that high, but I think the urgency that people have about his presidency, I think is maybe just a little bit over exaggerated. And I think that's perpetrated by our media. I hate to
Yeah,
say it,
oh,
man,
yeah.
but I
Yeah.
really do. And but like I said, do I think he's a good president? Man, I think the jury's still out. Do I think he's a good man? No, fuck no, I never have. But
Yeah.
that's kind of where I'm at. But as far as the president goes, fuck, I don't know,
I think
man.
if they, but see, on the complete other end of the spectrum, I think if they wanted him out, he'd be out.
He'd be out. He'd be out.
Yeah.
Because history shows that if somebody does happen to get in that chair who they don't want there, they got more than one way of getting rid of them.
That's true. But you know what, Rev? I'll kind of devil advocate that. Man, it sure as fuck seems like they're trying. I mean, it seems like it. I mean, man, every fucking corner, that bastard is just slippery as fuck, man. It's like they just can't grab him.
Yeah.
Who knows, man? Who knows?
Who knows?
I tell you, one thing I was going to talk to you about, Rev, because you don't vote, do you, man? I'm just going to go ahead and put you on blast right here, man.
No, I don't. There's a quote, and I can't remember who originally said it. For some reason, I'm wanting to credit George Orwell, but the quote is that I've never voted because from the time I was young, I saw that idiots are in the majority, so it's always a certainty they're going to win.
Brother, that's
Yeah.
that's pretty fucking spot on,
Right.
man. But one thing I'll say, as far as just whether the system is rigged, the voting's rigged, I think the system's rigged to get on the fucking ballot.
Yeah.
But I think if Donald Trump showed us anything, I think the vote's legit because I think there's an anomaly, man. I think it really was.
I think the vote's legit, but I don't think it matters.
Right,
In other words,
right.
I think they narrow it down to a set, number of people who they have faith in that are gonna
Toe the line.
toe the line, and it's not any more consequential than American Idol.
Yeah, I could see that, man. Once again, I'm not saying
understand.
I totally buy into it, but damn, man, it sounds right.
Yeah.
It really
I mean,
does, man.
When you look at it, I mean, I'm sure there are many, 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 many more people that are qualified for that job
Oh fuck, yeah, man. I mean,
that
Jesus.
just don't have that
well, the money.
backing.
Yeah, money. I mean, really, is what it boils down to. I mean, hell, a regular person's not going to be able to get up there, man.
Right.
I mean,
Right.
you're damn fucking lucky to get on a local. I know our local representative, man. He's local. He's the real deal. But shit, man. I mean, once you start getting past that, you got to have the machine.
You've got people that have actual, degrees.
But Trump had a reality show, so.
I mean,
Yeah.
he had a
Which is
reality
which is
show.
almost
there you go.
more fucking,
That's on your resume.
Well, I'll
Yeah,
tell you a thing
yeah.
I was told as a child that always stuck with me. I remember, you know how it is when you go to a barber shop as a kid and you listen to all the guys come in.
Oh,
None of
yeah.
them are getting a haircut. They're just in there to
Talking
shoot
shit,
the shit
man.
and talk.
Yeah.
Well, there was a guy who I remember talking one day when politics was a discussion. I can't even remember what election this was. I want to say it was the run up to 92, maybe when it was Bush Sr. versus Clinton.
Got you. Right.
And this guy was a lawyer and he was a judge. And the thing that he said, and he wasn't addressing this directly to me, but it's always stuck with me. He said, if you're ever interested in politics, the advice I would give you would be to vote in local elections
Right.
because or at the state level because that's what's going to actually have an impact on your life.
Exactly.
But when you get to the presidential level, you're basically talking about WWE.
Yeah, really, man. And
Right.
you know what, dude? I can even take that a step further because me and you have a mutual friend, Chris Stowe. Shout out Chris Stowe this week. Chris used to have a radio show. It was an AM show. It wasn't his show, but he was a co-host.
Right.
And they did politics. In fact, he was the first person to ever talk to me about Barack Obama.
Right.
In fact, just a little side note, then I'll swing back to my original point. Chris Stowe said, hey, watch out for this guy, Barack Obama. He's going to be a player. I'm like, there's no fucking way anybody's going to vote for somebody named Barack Obama.
Mhm.
Well, look what happened,
Absolutely.
but Stowe called that. Well, just kind of going back to what we're talking about, like the WWE aspect. He said, man, he had a Republican and a Democrat on the show. I think they were at the local level out of Charlotte.
Right.
And he said before they went on air, just as me and you would go over a match, because Stowe was also in professional wrestling. We all broke in together. He said, brother, it was just like a wrestling show. He was like, they went outside and they went over their fucking spots.
Yeah.
And then they turned on the mic and then
Yeah.
it was on.
Yeah.
So once again, political theater is a fucking term for a reason.
It is.
I mean, it's a reason, and people, man, there's just some people out there I feel they're just straight up marks.
I've heard it
Right.
called
You
the
know?
entertainment aspect, or the entertainment wing, rather, of the military-industrial complex.
There you go, man. Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. It's like the propaganda machine. This is more of the
Yes.
the entertainment part. Yeah, man,
Well,
makes perfect sense.
Well,
Yeah.
let me ask you this, and I'm not sure how much of it you're around for the Clinton era, the
I
Bill
rem-
Clinton era.
I remember I was probably around 9, maybe 10, I guess, when that election took place.
Okay.
And I remember I remember a little bit of the first half of it, although I've gone back since then.
Right.
But the main thing I remember from being young was the Bob Dole election
Yeah.
and on afterwards towards the
Right, yeah.
impeachment.
Yeah.
Yeah, that was my first election. Actually,
Yeah.
the first one I voted in.
Now, I mean, we were both,
About 18 at the
I
time.
would, I would say.
Because I voted,
I
yeah.
probably, but yeah, you remember that time and how that was probably one of my favorite eras.
Yeah.
Of just being around. Everything seemed really
Laid back.
laid back.
I mean,
We weren't in any. We were nowhere near any wars.
we had them going on, man, but they weren't as
No, they weren't.
intense and,
Right.
and
Yeah.
definitely
We
not as
weren't-
mainstream.
And that's a difference in marketing, I think, is that when a Republican is president, we're at
Oh,
war.
brother.
Right.
Because
Yes.
they wave that shit like a flag.
Right.
Yes.
And
Well, I mean,
when a Democrat's president, we're still at war. You just don't really know it.
Keep it
Right.
under the radar.
Well,
man.
see, the first World Trade bombings happened when
93.
93
Yes, sir.
when Clinton was in office.
Right.
And you take a look at that, and you look when Bush came into office in 9/11.
Yeah, man.
Just
It's
right
right
there.
there, man. He wasn't even in there for a year.
Boom.
You know.
You
Life
take a
changed.
big look at that. But also on that flip side, you had during that 90s, you had Ruby Ridge,
Yeah.
Yeah.
Waco.
you had Waco, to where the ATF was just
Oklahoma City.
totally.
So, oh, yeah.
Oklahoma City.
Right.
Where the ATF was just totally out of control.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Yeah, almost
Yeah.
just, with no, well, I guess just no restraints, it seems
No.
like, man. They just went
No.
in and just
And-
clean
and
clean
this was
fucking
the first
house.
time- well, this was the first time I had ever heard anything about an ATF
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
ever.
Yeah.
And I think that's another thing that I think is. I'm trying to think of this really fuels conspiracy theory or whatever you want to call it, is that the idea how we were talking about that it can boil down to people looking at the world and saying something's not right.
Right.
I don't know what it is, but what the official story is bullshit. And
Right.
if you can look at presidential politics and say, okay, this is political theater, can you look at other things such as terror attacks?
Fuck yeah,
Right.
man. I mean,
Yeah.
at least opens up the question.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? Once again now, and something I want to a disclaimer for myself. I'm going to talk shit in this whole podcast, man. I'm going to be like, yeah, no shit, that's it. I know that. No, I don't, man. I get caught up, so I did want to say that.
Yeah.
Right.
But fuck yeah, man. It's enough to at least say, is it fucking possible?
Yeah.
And that's what I think we need to keep our minds open. In other words, don't be one of these people, well, no, that goes against my narrative. That cannot be possible, and you're a fucking, I guess, a fascist or a communist, depending on which side you're on, for even bringing that up.
That's a huge thing now with name slinging.
Fascists and communists.
If you have an opposing opinion about anything,
That you're going to be one or the other.
right?
I got in a little argument with a friend of mine on Facebook. It's been about 6-7 months ago. It's one of the last ones I got into, and I went to jam with some friends, and I was telling him about it, my drummer friend, and I was like, yeah, I got into a little political argument. He said, so which are you this week, man, a communist or a fascist?
Yeah.
I mean,
Yeah.
and that was it. And
Yeah.
I'm like, no shit, bro. Well, I'm a fascist this week.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
Next week I'll be a communist, but
or a libtard.
or a libtard, or a
Yeah.
snowflake,
Exactly.
or a
Whatever,
cuck, or a
Right.
teabagger,
Yeah.
But man, one thing, like, if we're going to talk about that, and once again, I'm not saying what side this and that, but I do wish the left would get a little bit better with their insults, man. I mean, they gave us the classic teabagger. I
Yeah.
love that shit. I went liberal for about 3 weeks. So my
Oh,
teabagger's
gosh.
the shit.
Well,
Then they kinda dropped down.
they have the phrase "the left can't meme" for a reason.
That's the truth, man.
And I think what it boils
is.
down to is that you can try to intellectualize that saying, but honestly, what it boils down to, in my opinion anyway, is that all right-wing arguments boil down to something you can fit on a bumper sticker, which
Right on.
translates well to
Right,
memes.
It sure
Yeah.
does, man.
Most-
yeah.
Left-wing arguments, on the other hand, are sort of house of
Thesis,
cards.
or fucking a thesis on top
Right.
of it.
Right.
Well, the snowflake one just always got me. It's like, really? that would be something I would call my daughter
I know.
as a term of endearment.
Yeah, man, or something you would say at 6th grade.
It's like, don't
Yeah.
call him pumpkin either. Please don't use pumpkin in that light. Please,
But
just don't say that.
But here's
you
the
know?
flip side, man. What does the other side do? Well, they turn around and call the other side a snowflake. Well, we're not snowflakes. You're snowflakes.
You're
Yeah.
a snowflake.
We're not racist. You're the real racist.
You're the real
Yeah.
racist, and your president's a Cheeto. Give me
Yeah.
a fucking break, man. That's almost enough for me to vote for him right there. Just
Right.
to be like,
Yeah.
come on, man, y'all can do better than that. I mean, obviously, I'm not going to vote for him just because the left calls him a Cheeto,
Right.
but I'm just saying, man, it seems like they could come up with a little bit better insults.
They could.
But,
You know, when you were getting into the first World Trade Center bombing, right there, which happened in '93, and then, of course, 8 years later, 9/11. One thing I think that's a fair point to throw out, because you can't really have this discussion without throwing this point out, is that you always come up with a paper trail after stuff like this happens. And there's the argument, which I'm not going to get into one way or the other, honestly, but it's a valid point that I'm not going to say all, but probably 90% or more of international terror groups like that are NATO assets that went rogue.
Right.
Yeah.
I see, man. They went off on their fucking own and shit.
You know, if you really get into start reading about the Soviet-Afghan war and the way we funded the Mujahideen, those guys became the nucleus of the Taliban.
That's what I was always under the impression of, man. I've always heard that the CIA pretty much funded Osama Bin Laden.
Right.
Speaking of Osama, man, let me ask you: do you think that they took him out? Do you think Osama Bin Laden's dead? I'm gonna go ahead and hit you with one, brother.
I think he died way, way earlier than they say.
Really? So you do question the official story, cause
Of course.
I sure as hell question that official story,
Of
man.
course.
Let's take the most wanted man in America ever, killing 3,000 Americans, allegedly. That he definitely got the blame. And now let's go take him out, dump his body into the ocean
Before it can be examined. Without even questioning him, probably the best source of intel on the planet.
that you could get. And
I don't think that's the case. Well, I don't think it's the case in that way, because definitely if it had happened in the Bush era, Cowboy Bush would have taken yippee-ki-yay, motherfucker.
Man, he would have paraded that son of a bitch's head
come
up
on.
and down
Yeah,
fucking
for sure.
Fifth Avenue, man.
Yeah.
He would have, for real, there
Look,
would have been
Daddy.
a tour
Look,
of
Daddy.
the dead body.
Look what I did, Dad.
Yes, man. I
Look,
swear.
Daddy.
Fuck yes, man. And let me ask you guys, didn't some of those, if not all of the people involved in that, weren't they killed in
a helicopter crash.
what
Right.
the fuck, man?
Yeah.
I mean, what the fuck?
Yeah.
How?
What?
What?
I think there's definitely something that just didn't sit right.
Right.
Some
with
with
holes.
it.
Some
Of
holes.
course.
Right. Like all these things we've
Right.
talked about today, man. And I can understand why a governing body would want to
Right.
put these narratives out. You want to keep your population happy, man. You want to keep them feeling good, optimistic, but at the same time, man, you can't just expect us not to ask questions, especially
Well,
where
Well,
the
I
fuck
think
is
they're
your
trying.
Yeah, they are. Yeah.
Or you look at like Saddam Hussein and how all that went down.
All the weapons of mass destruction, which they still haven't found.
Right. Yeah.
Right.
Exactly.
Come on,
and
man.
they find him in a spider hole, and they have this huge trial.
Yeah.
He's and he had been built up as just as dangerous.
If not more so,
If
even.
not more.
If not more so.
Right.
And he was paraded, man,
Right.
all over television.
Yeah.
I mean, dude, his trial was a spectacle.
Well,
Yeah.
and the same comparison we used a minute ago about the Mujahideen of the Soviet-Afghan war and the Taliban nucleus. The guys we originally funded to get rid of Saddam for us, I mean, that was the nucleus of Al-Qaeda right there.
Right there,
Right.
yeah.
Or the same guys that you can even go further. The guys who, I'm trying to think what year this was. I'm wanting to say around 2011, 2012, when Obama was doing press conferences on TV because it was a subject that had come up that was getting questioned about. His term, I believe, was we're funding moderate rebels
Okay.
in the
Right.
area.
Right.
That my opinion on that is that this is a tricky way to figure out how to phrase it, is that I think in the aftermath of W,
Right.
that American soldiers dying in the Middle East in wars that had no end,
Right.
that were just going to be indefinite conflicts, had become a very, very unpopular thing with the public.
Oh, absolutely.
So the question then comes up of using guys over there that we can fund to do the dirty work for us.
Of course. Right.
And if you go, and like I said before, follow the paper trail, these are the guys who form the nucleus of the Islamic State.
Right. Who we are currently fighting now. I mean, it's like it's almost a vicious cycle, man.
Yeah.
I mean, for lack of a better term, you know. I'll tell you guys what. Let's switch gears just a little bit, man, because we've been talking a lot of serious shit here. And one thing I like about conspiracy theories in general is some of them can be kind of hokey, I guess, kind of fun.
Right.
Ben, let me ask you, in your opinion, what's the most, I guess, fun type? For me, I'll go ahead and throw mine out. I love the Reptilians, man.
Oh, that's a great one.
I love. Have
Right.
you heard of this, Mike?
No, you're gonna have to smart me up on a
Now,
lot
do you read
of this.
David Icke?
No, but I know I've watched some interviews with him, and he had a 4-hour documentary I watched a few years back,
Yeah.
and I watched that entire thing. But I tell you,
That was when you went down the YouTube hole on?
Yes, man, yes. Doc, I'm gonna let you. I know you probably have a little bit more information on it than I do because I'm a little spotty at best. But you want to tell Mike a little bit about I had to bring up the Reptilians, man.
Absolutely.
There's two I want to talk about: the Reptilians and the other one's the Vegas shooter.
Right.
That's going back into a little bit more serious shit. So,
all right.
you know, but yeah, man, let's talk a little bit about Reptilians.
Okay.
That's my request.
Man, the Reptilians isn't an easy one to launch into. I mean, I don't think that's an introductory level at all.
that is, man. That's the fucking deep end, brother.
Yeah.
That is.
That's the one when you've been at this shit for a long, long time.
Well, let's dip our toe into the water here,
Yeah.
just kind of get a feel for what, and we can go into like the whole thing later on,
man.
for sure.
Yeah, because
Yeah.
I definitely,
Yeah.
because brother, that's a fucking series, man. That ain't even a show. That's a fucking saga.
Right.
Bottom line, man, there is a theory, and I love this theory, that there is a race of reptilian humanoids
Uh-huh.
who are intelligent. Some even say more intelligent than
Either
we are.
extraterrestrial or from the hollow earth.
Earth. Yeah, yes,
Wow.
yes.
Yeah.
Apparently, there's an entire civilization under the earth that these, reptilians live in. Man, it even goes back into scripture, biblical. I've seen some stuff like the serpent, and was
Even further back than that, in a lot of
Yeah.
cases, like goes back to Babylon and Egypt.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. I mean, it's there these ancient. Like hieroglyphics and stuff like it shows reptilians walking with men and stuff like this. Bottom line, man, is the reptilians,
Right,
And
right.
they hold power. It's like they have this, this knowledge and this technology and stuff like this, and it even goes as far. And like I say, bro, this is just dipping your toe. This goes a lot deeper. But there's even theories that they are cannibal. Well, I guess they wouldn't be cannibals because they eat us. But like their
Right.
blood they can actually shape shift. There's some shape-shifting theories out
And
there.
essentially all world leaders.
Yes, or
belong to
reptilians.
this. Yeah.
Yes. It's great, man. I love that shit.
Now, was this the basis for the TV show V?
Dude, there is a lot of comparisons that could be made. Yes,
Really?
I've
Yeah.
actually heard people compare it to V. Yes,
Wow.
yes. Essentially, yes.
Yeah.
But like I say, man, that's always been my favorite. The first time I heard, because I'm a science fiction fan, I like
Yeah.
Star Trek, Star Wars, stuff like that. The first time I heard it, I'm like, man, this is awesome. I mean, this is like almost like interactive science fiction. Obviously, I don't believe it. I mean,
Right.
I really don't. But man, wouldn't it be a trip if that's the one that's real? Of all the
It
shit
would
that's
be.
real, if it was the fucking reptilians, man, I've always said that would just be something else. But that's one I just want to talk about just a little bit, man. I had to bring that one.
Nice.
up.
Yeah.
I was like, we're gonna have the Reverend up here, man. We're gonna talk about reptiles at least for a minute, man, because I got to get that out
Yeah.
there. What about you, Mike? You got any special ones or
The
anything?
one I always gravitate towards most is Waco.
Mm,
Yeah.
Waco.
that's getting a little bit more on the realistic.
That was the one that was like, okay.
Waco,
What?
Ruby Ridge, and Oklahoma City all overlap with each other,
Right.
really.
You can even really throw in Ted Kaczynski into that mix as well.
Yeah.
As far as everything that happened to that, because everything that was leading up and was a result of everything that Eric Rudolph,
Right.
another one. Because of everything that happened, because of Ruby Ridge, because of Waco, especially Waco for me, because it just really seemed to me like the ATF, and going back to the ATF thing, who the fuck were the ATF at that time?
Right. Just
That was a whole new thing, and it seemed like they were doing their own thing away from, I guess, almost like
they were on their own.
they were on their own,
running roughshod.
You know, the
away
climate.
from like the FBI and every other thing,
Right.
to where they had made, I guess they had wanted to flex their muscle
Right.
on these guys, and for whatever reason they were doing their own thing, you know.
Right. I mean, don't necessarily agree with it.
You
but
know,
hey,
the
man,
climate
you know.
during the period, and it's not something that's easy to explain to younger people who weren't around for the Clinton years, but the climate at the time among conspiracy theorists, I mean, I can remember going to a gun show back during that time at the tail end of Clinton, and the paranoia in the air, you know, following Waco, following Ruby Ridge.
Right, man.
It was so thick it felt like you could cut it with a knife.
Right.
There was a real sentiment that, you know, we talk about FEMA camps and we talk about gun confiscation stuff now. That was real shit to people back then.
Yeah, because they were seeing it playing out in the fucking news, man.
Right.
I mean, they were seeing people fucking dying at the hands of the ATF,
Yeah.
you know, unnecessarily.
This government agency
Yeah, correct.
You know?
Right. And I mean, pretty much running roughshod.
for
you
no
know?
reason,
Mhm.
Right.
for
right.
absolutely no reason.
Other than maybe they just didn't approve of the lifestyle. That's really, or the people were outspoken.
Or social conditioning.
So, yeah, man, absolutely.
You know,
And
to,
I think at some point, maybe they thought this was going to be another Jonestown scenario.
Right.
But I think they found out that, you know, these people had weapons.
Right. Yeah, that was really the bottom line, I guess, as far as why they went in, because the weapons.
that's
Well,
what,
they
that's
say
how the
that's
story
the
goes.
The story goes.
Right.
Because of the weapons.
Right.
And I don't know
Well, you know
that everything was just done completely, totally wrong.
Wrong, man. Yeah, I mean, like I said, you had people that fucking died.
Yeah.
And you know, man, we could even take that and tie it back into William Cooper, because that's how William Cooper got taken out. They went down there and they took his ass out about 3 or 4 months after he predicted 9/11. You know, which happened right there. I mean, man, I'm telling you, bro, you start getting into this stuff, it does. Once again, not saying whether it's right or wrong, just saying, hey, this could at least.
Well, you know, talking
raise
about
questions.
William Cooper, there's a saying that goes, if you want to hide truth, put it in a book.
There you go, man. There it is. Hide in plain sight.
Yeah.
Because nobody's going to read.
Exactly.
I mean, that's really what it boils
Exactly.
down to, you know.
Well, you know, with David Koresh, you know, he made no bones about anything that he was doing.
No.
He put it out there for everybody. Wanted everybody to come in and see what he had. Had people over there
Right.
from the ATF
Yeah, I mean, it's
on their firing range.
Right.
These people knew, and
it's mind-boggling, man.
Yeah.
That know something like that could happen on American soil on a few occasions. man.
and
Well,
they
let me
wanted
ask
to
you a
put
question.
their raid out there.
Right.
They really. It does. It's frustrating.
It's mind-boggling.
Still.
You know how we were talking about social conditioning,
Right.
and the idea, and you know, we can feed this back into the media all day. And you were asking about particular theories. Do you know very much about MKUltra?
Yeah, a little bit. Now let me see if I'm on the right page here. It's basically the mind control projects from the CIA, like from the 50s and things
Right.
of that nature. I'm familiar to a certain degree, man, but I would love to go into more detail.
Well,
are
the
you
eas-
familiar,
No,
Mike?
no.
Okay.
Okay. The easiest way to explain MKUltra, and this is another one that's not introductory
Right.
at
man,
any
yeah,
level.
Right,
I mean,
right.
this isn't something, you know, you can come out to the average person and begin talking about without them just immediately flipping their switch off.
Exactly. Kind of like the reptiles. I mean, you know.
Exactly. You know, mind control is such a I don't know what it is, if it's such a loaded term
Right. Right.
to most people, but the easiest way to break it down, what MKUltra is that it was the CIA's initial experiments with mind control.
Right.
This began during or at the tail end of World War II.
Okay.
And the initial purpose of it was to train soldiers how to resist POW captivity,
Okay.
to keep the mind from breaking,
Gotcha.
essentially. So it was essentially mapping out the human brain and being able to crack it.
Got you.
I guess.
Right.
Now, this ended up, like most things, it evolves over time. You probably learned about this in school, or at least from documentaries or however you heard about it, where during the 1950s at movie theaters, they would show split-second images
Yes,
on the
sir.
screen of things
Right.
that would say,
Right.
buy popcorn,
Yes.
drink Coke,
Subliminal
and it would
type.
spike sales.
Exactly. Right.
This was a part of that.
Okay.
And it just evolved more and more over time to the point where when some of this stuff got declassified, the official explanation has always been, well, this was a very certain thing that fit a time and place, but we don't use it anymore.
Right.
Now, there's numerous people, who have come out over the years and said, this never ended.
Well, of course not.
They changed the name.
As I was just going to say, man, you just rebrand it. That's
Yeah.
all you do. It's the
Right.
same fucking thing. You know?
Till we get to the point where in the media now, things are so loaded
Right.
that it's literally everywhere.
Dude, I mean, you literally have quote unquote trigger warnings and shit now. And I think that kind of fits into that. Now you've been conditioned so much to
Yeah.
the point where just a simple term or two can fucking switch your, flip your switch. And it's, once again, man, it's mind boggling. And it's one of those things that you just, like we said before, we know something's not right. We
Yeah.
don't know exactly what it is. Don't know how we sure as hell don't know how to fix it. Fuck, you can't fix it.
Well,
You
I'll
don't
tell
know,
you sort of
know?
an aspect of it that I've always found fascinating is, have you ever read about Operation Mockingbird?
No, I am not familiar with that one.
Okay. Operation Mockingbird was a product of the Cold War time period. And what you had happen was, and this has since been declassified, and like I said before, I don't want anybody to just buy what I'm saying 100%.
Exactly.
I want you to read about it.
Right.
Operation Mockingbird was a classified project where CIA agents were sent in to be used as media journalists
Oh,
and
shit.
on-air correspondents
Okay.
for the purpose of turning the opinion of the public to the side of the administration.
I see.
So there's a absolutely fascinating video on YouTube, which, and again, I don't think this is necessarily a Republican Democrat thing,
Right.
like we talked about before. I think this is just
Establishment?
right.
Right.
It's
Yeah.
establishment versus grassroots of whatever direction it goes in.
Right.
And there's a video where he didn't work for InfoWars, so I'd hesitate to call him a citizen journalist, but I guess that's what you'd call him. He walks up to Anderson Cooper at this convention where I believe it was an award show of some kind, and he confronts him about it.
Right.
He says, Mr. Cooper, do you know what Operation Mockingbird is? And, Cooper sort of shrugs it off and laughs and goes, yeah, I learned about that in journalism school. Wasn't that something from the 1950s? Like, what are you getting at? And he goes, well, let me ask you a question. It says in your official biography that during the time you were in college, you worked for the CIA.
Right. Because
You
I've
get-
heard that before. I've heard that.
And he goes, yeah, that's right. And he goes, well, let's make the comparison to MKUltra, where let's just go out on a limb and say this program never ended with the Cold War, that it was just put under another name. Now let me ask you a question. If this program was still ongoing, what do you think one of those on-screen journalists would look like? Do you think it would look like you?
Booyah. Boom. There it is. Once again, man, to in my opinion, to think that the CIA or other agencies, man, I mean, maybe even going back into the Soviets, KGB, I don't think the KGB ever went away.
No.
I mean, just once again, underground changed their names. But to think that these people cannot get in and influence media,
Right.
I think it is just obscenely naive to think that that kind of things cannot happen.
Yeah.
But once
It's
again,
one of the most powerful tools in politics.
oh, if not the
For sure.
most. I mean, man, I've always said the press. I mean, dude, the press is what gives us our information to change our opinions,
Right.
or to form our opinions. And man, if there's things,
Money being number one.
Well,
that would be for sure money.
Sure, yeah, man.
Well,
I mean, yeah.
it's
Because
something you
without
can't
that-
be.
No, there's nothing.
It's something you
right.
can't be naive about, because when we're talking about the media, we have this noble myth in America that we have a free media.
Right.
You know, anybody can just with any kind of perception whatsoever can look at international media and say, okay, I know on some level that if I'm getting my news from RT, that this is the voice of the Russian government.
Right.
Or I know on some level that if I'm getting my news from Al Jazeera, that I'm getting the narrative from the rich oil sheiks of the peninsula.
Right.
That news, in other words, is the biased opinion of who owns it.
And that's exactly right. I mean, man, the media are corporations, man. They're owned by big, huge corporate, industries, man,
Right.
corporations.
And to pretend that that isn't the case with American media, I think is what I was talking about. It's a noble myth that we have. And it's not always as blatant as you might think I'm trying to, or that you think we're trying to get across here, that a lot of times it can just narrow down to what stories are selected to be covered.
See, I had a little debate with a friend of mine at work, and this person is really very liberal. And once again, it's not a liberal conservative thing, but we were just talking about, there was a news story. I can't remember exactly what it was, but Fox News, given obviously they are the more conservative, that's their gimmick. And it's all gimmicks, man. That's all it really is. But they had reported on a story once again, man. It escapes me what it was. And she was like, oh, well, that's Fox News. I'm like, well, they're the only ones who are reporting on it. And she looked like she almost had a free thought for a second, like an independent thought. And I think it scared the shit out of her. So she went back to her Kool-Aid drinking. But that was my point, as we were talking. I'm like, it's not about what you're being told. It's about what you're not being told. That's more important than being told something wrong is not being told something at all. I think, because it's not a lie. Technically, it's not a lie. Well, we never said anything. Well, hell, man, you're not giving all that information either. So it's things like that, where I think, we have to be really, we don't need a distrust of media, because I know that's a big thing, too. If you say you distrust me, then you're a tinfoil hat wearing, fascist or whatever, at this point. But, man, I find nothing wrong with questioning and just knowing what the intentions are. Once again, these are money-making industries, and that's what they're here to do. They're here to sell ads.
Of course
and that's on paper, man. Yeah. That's not a theory. That's not conspiracy, man. That's fucking truth. I mean, they're there to sell fucking ads. Yeah. So, well, guys, y'all want to take a little break right now and come back, because I like to maybe switch gears a little bit and talk about something that's really interesting to me. But we'll be right back. What's up, Puds? This is Jason from the PUDcast with Jason and Mike, and I want to take this opportunity to talk to y'all about GameSwap, located at 112 Northeast Court Square, right here in beautiful downtown Lincoln, North Carolina. Whether you're looking for the best new games and consoles, or you're more of a retro guy like me, GameSwap has you covered. People, I'm talking everything from Atari, Nintendo, Super Nintendo, Sega, PlayStation, Xbox. Hey, there's even systems I've never even heard of before. So if you're a hobbyist, a hardcore gamer, or a collector, GameSwap is the only place to go. And maybe video games isn't your thing. Well, that's cool too, because GameSwap is much more than just a game store. They also carry a vast selection of comic books, toys, t-shirts, and all sorts of collectibles spanning all aspects of pop culture, from science fiction, action, adventure, TV, horror, and all points in between. You really just have to see it to believe it. So what are you waiting for? Get on down here to GameSwap and see it for yourself, and tell them that the PUDs sent you. All right, Puds, we're back, and we're back with the Reverend Doctor in the house, and
what up,
brother? So far, mine is just blown. This has just been an unbelievable podcast, and we're not even halfway through it. So, well, Doc, I'm going to go ahead and just jump head first into something here, brother.
All right.
I sent you a message a little earlier in the week, just and for what it's worth out there, man, we're going to this thing. We're doing what we're calling it in the ring, man. We didn't have a lot of notes. We didn't have a lot of really a lot of prepare. We didn't prepare much. We just want to come in.
Just wanted to be
open.
smarting up.
Right, man. A blank slate. But there
just
was
a conversation.
Exactly, man. Exactly. Which is what we want the PUDs to always be. That's exactly what it is. But there was one thing I want to talk to you about, man. You posted something on your Facebook. Once again, I consider you to be the most interesting man on Facebook. And you had posted something that I had to show some people that I worked with. I couldn't even talk. I was like, dude, just read this shit. I can't even go into it. But you posted something that a very tragic situation. Before we go too much further, we're not making light of this situation. We're not, what happened. I'm going to talk about the Las Vegas shooting.
Right.
Is what we're about to go into. And so we don't want to take anything away from that tragedy. We don't take anything away from how, just utterly sad and hurtful it was what happened. But you had posted something that showed a connection between that event and a Saudi Arabian royal family assassination.
Coup going on within it.
What the fuck, dude? Tell us, because man, I know a little bit, but I don't know shit. I want to get it straight.
Well, where do you want to start?
From the beginning, brother. From you tell me.
Shit, let's see.
Mike, are you familiar with this?
Yeah, absolutely. I've seen.
Okay.
Well, basically, if you really want to understand what went on, you have to, and this is going to overlap a lot. The Las Vegas shooting, and there's a coup that's been ongoing within the royal family of Saudi Arabia. So before I even launch into that, one thing to sort of clarify and get out of the way is there's a number of terms that I think are really loaded terms, especially with the media. And one thing to get out of the way is when I talk about this being, or when you talk about any shooting being Islamic terrorism, there's a difference you have to factor in between, a religion where the radicalized form of a religion versus,
like a mainstream or
right.
Right.
Now, for example, I'm not going to get out on a limb, and if I talk about Christianity, I'm not going to say that the variation funded by militias who, bomb abortion clinics is the mainstream form of it, or
exactly.
I know there's a difference between Judaism versus Zionism.
Exactly.
And on the same hand, you have to take into consideration there's a difference between Islam and what's called Wahhabism, which is the radical variant.
Got you.
Now, Wahhabism, I don't know if you know very much about it. It's a variation on Islam that came about in the early to mid 1800s. Oh. So it's founded on two tenets, I guess, two pillars that it comes upon. The first one is the idea of the singularness or the oneness of God. Okay. You see attacks of Wahhabi terrorists that are committed against Christians off the idea that it's a triune God, okay, or the idea that Jews aren't legit because they've converted the message of Abraham and Moses into a blood thing.
Gotcha.
And you can go on and on with that. The second pillar of it is the idea that I don't know how much either you guys know about theology or how in depth with it you are, but Muslims understand the Quran to be something very different than Christians understand the Bible to be.
Okay.
The Bible is essentially a collection of scrolls and stories that were compiled over about a 4,000, 5,000 year period.
Right.
The Quran, on the other hand, is considered to be the literal word of the angel Gabriel, which the Prophet Muhammad channeled.
Right.
And he memorized it. The word Quran literally means the recitation.
Okay.
So that's why, for example, when you see people holding rallies, in Bible Belt states, you'll get some preacher who wants to burn a Quran, and it's always met with real outcry. It's because it's understood to be a little bit different than the Bible is. It's the idea that it's literally destroying, the literal word of God.
Because I know, Ben, because for Christians, you can write in your Bible, you can make notes, you can circle things, you can do this. With the Quran, and of course, correct me if I'm wrong, but you cannot deface a Quran in any way. So right there's a fundamental difference.
Muslims are very proud of the fact that the Quran, not a single word is changed of it.
Right.
Can I hop in here right quick on something? Not to take away from the conversation, but what is it about? I've talked to you about this before. What is it about white people? And you
can stop right there.
What is it about white people? They are so fast to burn anything,
records, books. Goddamn, man, we were just talking about this shit like last week, man. Records, Qurans,
yeah.
Crosses,
crosses.
Crosses.
There you go, man.
I mean, anything.
White
Nike
people,
shoes.
Nikes, man. White people put down the matches is what we're trying to say.
Yeah. I don't have an answer for
No, I
that.
know, man. Yeah, I mean, but yeah, I mean, it's a good point. I
It
mean,
is.
yeah,
I mean,
especially with the records and the books and the crosses. I mean, yeah, man. Let's.
if
you know,
there's anything threatening in any way,
white people
it
burn
sh-
that shit. Boy.
Yeah, they do.
We'll burn that motherfucker.
Yeah.
yeah, yeah.
God damn it, man. Good. I mean, good observation on that, man. It's true.
It never ceases to amaze
That shit
me.
scares the fuck out of me. Burn that motherfucker.
Yeah.
There you go. In 2018, here we are again. You know,
Nikes, motherfucker. I want them
burning
Nikes.
Nikes.
Give me them
Come
motherfuckers.
I
on.
love the clash that goes on. You know, you'll hear, listen here, yeah, cuck or soy
Yeah.
boy. Facts don't care about your feelings, but then on the other hand, I'm burning all my shoes.
Yeah, I mean, come on,
Burning,
man.
burning those jerseys, burning those shoes.
Fuck me
yeah.
running, man. There's people
Yeah.
out here that don't have a fucking shirt on their back, man. But anyway,
Give them to,
Yeah,
give 'em
I-
to some
I
of
saw
those
you-
homeless vets.
And I saw
For
you
real.
post,
Yeah.
Ben. I saw you post something about that.
legit.
Not too long ago about, hey, instead of burning these things,
Give them to
give
somebody.
them to somebody that can use them.
Well, just to talk about that, we'll get back into the Vegas thing, but just to kind of talk about that too, man. It's just like you want people to protest. You don't want people burning down fucking
Right.
neighborhoods and businesses to protest, but then when you want to come out and take a knee, which is pretty goddamn laid back
Yeah.
form of protest, well, we can't do that either. It's like, come on, man. I mean, that's all I want to say about that. That's all I want to say
That's
about
a whole
that.
nother.
You
That's a
know,
whole nother
yeah.
issue
It's like
for sure.
Protest is a part of America,
Yeah.
and But anyway, brother, back to a lighter subject.
We'll call it a lighter
Yeah,
subject.
yeah.
Yeah.
So, okay, the second pillar of Wahhabism, like I was talking about, is the idea of that there's a fundamental difference in understanding between the Bible and the Quran as it applies to Christians as opposed to Muslims. So, one of the ideas that you see pop up is that because this is the literal Word of God which was channeled, that because it was revealed in 7th century Arabia, that it stands to reason by clerical opinion that this time period was the pinnacle of civilization to an extent in the eyes of God or the divine.
Got you.
So because of that, there's another logical move you have to make where clerical opinion becomes, okay, all innovations since then are inherently sinful or wrong.
I see, man, because it's already peaked out.
Right.
We've peaked, and now we're on the downswing. We're on the decline.
Right.
Got you.
So
Okay,
it's inherently wrong, I guess, to innovate over the word of the divine.
I see. Okay.
So all social and political revolutions that came about since that time period, whether they be democracy, whether they be civil rights, whether they be, any sort of sexual movements or anything, they're inherently wrong.
I see. Okay. Right.
So now, the majority of all Muslims on the planet, in a lot of ways, find Wahhabism to be sort of ridiculous.
Sure. Just like a Christian would think, bombing an abortion clinic is fucking wrong.
Right.
You're right.
But one thing that you have to take into account is that it's, ever since it was first codified, I guess, in the 1800s, is that it's been extremely influential in a lot of circles.
Right.
It's the variation of Islam that's followed by the Islamic State, by groups like Boko Haram, by the Taliban, and on and on. And the big one to keep in mind is it's the official religion of the royal family of Saudi Arabia.
Right.
And those guys have spent hundreds of billions of dollars over the last several decades pumping it out worldwide. And in a lot of ways, funding mosques in poor neighborhoods,
I
in
see.
Western countries, in prisons that
Ah,
are going
yes.
to take people who are already marginalized
Right.
and say, well, this is the reason for why you have a shit situation in life.
And here's our answer to make you a better person.
Right.
Right.
So Saudi Arabia, the royal family anyway, are the ones who really bear a brunt of the blame for a lot of this shit that's gone on. So if you really want to talk about the Las Vegas shooting, now just sort of shelving that what I already said, the what it really goes back to is fracking.
Yes.
Now, are you guys familiar with?
Yes.
Yes, to
Yeah.
a certain degree, man. Right.
Okay, about our attempts at harnessing energy
Right.
here at home that took away money from the Gulf states
Got you.
for
Right.
oil sales. Now, fracking sort of became where it was rather where you started seeing a lot of these Gulf Peninsula states pumping money into the Democratic Party.
Okay.
And the reason why is just sort of a marriage of convenience, if that makes sense.
Okay.
Like, Democrats, by and large, tend to support environmental causes.
Sure. Absolutely. Right.
Whereas, and you know, there's been a ton of press over the last decade about fracking. You know how bad it is,
yeah.
the environmental
Right.
consequences and ramifications from it. The Saudis, on the other hand, have pumped money into anti-fracking causes because it's cutting into their pocket.
Sure.
Right.
Right. Makes sense.
Right.
Right.
So that was when you started seeing, news and blurbs that would come out on Fox News where it would say, well, the Saudis and the Qataris and the Kuwaitis, the Emiratis, all these groups, they're in bed with the Democratic Party. They were pumping money into the Hillary campaign,
Right.
into the Obama presidency, and so on. So, do you guys remember Trump's meeting with when he went over to
Yes.
Saudi Arabia? There was
Yes, I
a picture
do. Yes.
that went viral online of him holding
the
that
ball.
orb,
You're right.
Yeah.
Right. Yes. Yeah.
and everybody was sort of going, "Man, what the fuck is that?"
It looked like some shit off a fucking metal album or something. I mean, it
Yeah, it did.
It looked ominous.
Looked like a
as fuck.
Megadeth album
Yeah,
cover.
I mean, literally.
So, there's been all kinds of theories that have come out since then, and the main idea that sort of overlaps with all of them is that Trump's visit, that the true purpose of it was him meeting with them and saying, okay, we'll help you guys restructure your economy,
Right.
but we've got a few demands
Right.
that we want to make. So, there's a number of things that have happened in Saudi Arabia since then, and not just the obvious ones. The obvious ones of being like, okay, women are driving cars,
The
and
greatest
things like
Royal
that now.
Rumble. The greatest
Right.
Royal Rumble hits.
The biggest though that I think really kind of flew under everybody's radar and nobody made a connection on is after that visit, the major thing that happened on the world stage was ISIS magically ran out of ammo,
you started seeing a downswing with them, and you really started.
and 6
seeing
months
that,
later
yeah.
they were essentially
gone. I mean,
gone.
Done.
Yeah. Yeah.
So when you start looking at those two things, though, that's where you start noticing a lot of overlap.
Right.
And this coup within the royal family sort of boils down to that there was one faction within them that very much supported the westernization of the country, that wanted to see money pumping into it, that wanted to see the country become more modern,
Right. More
I guess.
progressive. Right.
Right. But there's another faction within it that says, fuck that. This is business as usual. And so when it came to definancing ISIS, when it came to, defunding a lot of these groups around the world that are jihadist movements and passing Western reforms within the country, they were very, very bitter about it.
Right.
So that's sort of the backstory that you have to understand with the Las Vegas shooting, is the climate going into it.
Right.
So this guy who, Stephen Paddock,
Right.
are you really familiar with his backstory?
What I have looked into, and not really, to answer that question would be no. But what little bit I have, this guy looked like he lived a hell of a life, man. I mean, for one, I know he was kind of all over the place. It looks like he didn't really have roots, as far as I
Right.
can tell.
Well, he owned a private plane that the last 3 owners were on records being CIA agents.
Right. Right.
Yeah.
So, and he took a number of trips to the Philippines
Right.
over the years, and now, I mean, this is almost going to be a whole other subject in and of itself, but the woman who was supposedly his wife.
Right.
Now, this area of the Philippines, I don't know if you guys have monitored this at all or kept up within the news, but the Philippines starting, I guess, probably around 2015, 2016, it had become a hotbed of ISIS activity.
Oh no, that I did not know.
Yeah.
I wasn't aware of
No.
that. Okay.
Yeah, an absolute hotbed, which is sort of unusual. I mean, I guess it is that. It is the fringe part of that part of the world because
Right.
At one point in history, the Islamic Empire, I guess, stretched from Spain to China.
Exactly. Right.
So Indonesia and the Philippines has a pretty long history of Islam and all different denominations and sects within it. But I guess probably around 2015, 2016, it started becoming a real hotbed of ISIS activity.
Right.
So this woman that the media claimed was his wife, there's been a number of people who've come out since then who have said she wasn't his wife, she was his translator.
Oh really? Okay. Now I haven't heard that. Okay.
Yeah. So beyond that, though, there was another piece of news that really flew under the radar that came about 3-4 months ago, I believe, where she had applied for a loan, and on her information she put, "I'm a government agent."
Oh no shit.
Yeah.
So she like slipped.
Yeah.
Pretty much slipped up. Holy shit.
Yeah.
Wow.
Okay. All right.
So he was definitely connected.
Yes.
That's the way it's looking,
He
brother.
was well connected.
Whether he was an asset or what exactly he was, I mean, that's sort of I mean, it's also, there's information that's come out that said he had a lot of stuff to do with JPL, with NASA.
Oh, okay. No, I haven't
So
heard that either.
So, I mean, this was a guy who was really all over the place, and who exactly he was is sort of a matter of speculation, but the one thing that, you can be totally comfortable saying is he's not who they say he was.
Exactly. Once again, a pattern that
Yeah.
we're seeing here. Exactly.
So, this hotel in Las Vegas, the top several floors of it are owned by the Saudi royal family.
Right.
So the question I got for you, well, both you guys really, is when the shooting happened, what was your opinion on the official narrative that came about?
Man, like anything else on the news, I did question. I was just, my whole thing was like, why? That was my thing.
Yeah.
It was like, who is this guy? Why is he opening up on this concert, a country concert as well? It's like, does that have a connection? Because you would think more conservatives. I looked at it politically.
Yeah.
To be completely honest with you.
My question was how.
How the fuck do you break that glass, man?
No,
yeah, that was
how-
hurricane-proof glass.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying, man. right.
Everything about it, the amount of stuff that he had in there, and actually,
'Cause there was a-
accomplishing it. How did this happen?
Yeah, and he did have a lot of shit.
Yeah.
I mean,
well,
like,
that's the official story they tell, is he somehow got enough guns and ammo that, enough for an entire army platoon.
Yeah,
He
right.
could. He
Through
could-
a Las Vegas hotel where you can't even talk about counting cards without it being picked
no
up.
shit, for
Right.
real, man. Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, there's so much security at
Yeah.
these places, and you got going back to the glass itself, man.
Yeah.
I was like, what the fuck? And it was still, to me, it was always like, why would this guy do this? And what was the official story? Because I got so out of
Well,
the.
how much weaponry did he have up there, and how much did he use?
To my knowledge, it was only supposed to be the one rifle.
Yeah.
Or whatever.
I
But
think it was a belt-fed weapon, I think was the story they gave on the news.
yes, sir. Yeah, but man, I mean, apparently he had like a shitload of stuff up there, which kind of fits into the theory, to the quote unquote
Well, I don't
conspiracy
think
theory.
that was
Yeah.
that was all of it that was up there. Wasn't he supposedly had stuff in his vehicle? as well?
Now, I don't know that for
I
sure.
don't know. Yeah, I'm not sure. I
There's
thought.
some explosives.
I know.
Maybe some thermite.
I think all that was in the room. I believe.
Might have
Was,
been.
was
I
it
think- I think
all that
so.
in the room?
I think so. I'm not
Okay.
100%.
Well,
yeah,
they
I
say
mean,
they found, they supposedly found a casing for weapons that didn't even match
Right.
anything up there.
Right. So
Yeah.
how did that happen, man? I mean, are these rounds getting shot off before?
And there was other stories that they never really went anywhere with, that he had set up cameras that were recording what was going out in the hallways.
Yeah, I remember hearing
that-
about that.
Yeah.
And that didn't seem to make a lot of
Right.
sense. You know?
It doesn't make sense unless you take into account the idea that there was a meeting that was going to happen.
Right. Which is kind of feeding back into the connection.
Right.
Right.
So where I was saying before is the top several floors of that hotel are owned by the Saudi royal family. And if you look, there was a prince who had been staying there for a month beforehand.
Right.
And what this all sort of revolves around is the idea that this was an assassination attempt.
Right, right.
And it all relates back to the coup that was going on within the royal family. So there was Do you remember what the kill count was exactly?
Oh shit, man, I don't. It was at least double digits, if I'm not mistaken. It was at least a dozen, I believe, but I can't remember exactly how many.
58.
58.
58.
It was
and,
that
and how
fucking
many? And how many
man.
injured?
Oh shit.
851.
Fuck. I didn't know it was to that degree, man. Or I forgot.
Which 400 were by gunfire.
Right.
But in that ensuing,
with like the stampedes.
Right.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly. Damn, man.
So one of the common themes that you see pop up again and again is the idea that there was a hotel staff employee who he had gone missing for about 3 days, and then he resurfaced on the Ellen show, I believe, to get interviewed.
Yes, it seems like I remember hearing about this. Right.
Yeah. So the story or the narrative that sort of evolves when you really read into it is that this was the prince who was staying there had gotten tipped off.
Okay.
He got told, okay, there's an attempt out on you. So he got out of the hotel, and it became a whole other operation because the two places that were fired at were at the crowd down below, and there was an airport across the street.
Oh no, I didn't know about the airport.
Yeah.
Now, man, isn't there some footage of the prince actually being like escorted out of somewhere? It seems like I saw a YouTube video.
Yeah.
Where it was a security camera and it showed somebody in the royal family or somebody associated with the family who was like urgently taken out of this place. Am I right on that?
No,
man?
you're right. I can't
Okay.
remember the title of the video, but that exists. I couldn't point you in. I can point you in the direction by saying that's what to look for, though.
I got you, but the timestamps and the time that all this happens, man, coincides.
Right.
Like,
Yeah,
this
and
is all they do show.
The time period of what they say are like the missing minutes for when the hotel staff employee went missing would have been that time period when he slipped out of the building.
Right. Like the time makes sense. Like in other words, they can put it down and they can actually track this thing out.
Yeah.
Right.
And what a lot of these police officers, excuse me, have said is that because they've been put under a gag order, what they theorize is that the reason why this isn't being picked up and run with by the media is because it reveals some sort of involvement with what's going on with the Saudi royal family, and that if the American public knew that, we had 58 American civilians get killed, and what was the number, 850 something injured.
Right.
That's so much collateral damage that there'd be an outcry.
Absolutely, man. And I hate to make light. I'm not making light of the situation. So the term I'm about to use is not trying to make light, but it would be a PR nightmare, is what it would
Exactly.
be.
Right.
It's what it would be. So
Exactly.
there's obvious reasons why you want to try to, once again, do damage control, quote unquote damage control with this thing, But now, as far as the weapons being in the room and how that connects, well, I'll let you go. I'm sorry. I'm about to kind of jump ahead of it a little bit. But it just shows that Paddock may have been an arms dealer. Is that kind of what the working theory is?
That's sort of a consensus.
Right. And that he was actually going to be making, or there was going to be a purchase made or something like that, and apparently it goes south or something like that, and then that's kind of what opened up this entire tragic situation.
That was an initial theory that emerged, was that, do you remember during the Obama administration there was the Fast and Furious scandal?
Yes, I do. Yes,
Okay.
I do.
Can you explain that a little bit?
Well, the way I understand it, once again, man, I'm not that was researched on this stuff, but the way I understand it, man, it was a sting where they sent arms to the cartels in Mexico, and it was to basically track these guns and to see how the traffic gun running was happening.
Right.
But apparently, and correct me if I'm wrong here, Ben, but apparently they lost track of the guns or somehow or another, but they all ended up killing some people.
Yeah, they did.
And so in other words, the Obama administration, by trying to track this gun running, supplied these cartels with weapons that ended up killing American citizens.
So this was an initial theory that popped up with regards to the Vegas shooting, was that rather than a cartel, this was an ISIS cell in America being
right.
But and for a lot of people, I think that made a lot of sense.
Yeah, I mean it does.
Which, especially considering the footage or the camera that was set up in the hallway. Which, if you were committing a mass shooting, why would you set up cameras in the hallway? it doesn't make any sense if you were on like some sort of suicide mission, but if you were there to document a sale or a purchase being made, it makes all the sense in the world.
Especially at that level. You know what I'm saying, with these kinds of people, man, to have everything documented. So let me ask you, Ben, kind of fast forward a little bit to the actual shooting itself. What's the explanation in this theory? Why? Now in this theory, Paddock is not the shooter. In the theory that we're talking about here, as far as the connection, is that fair to say, or?
That's sort of where it gets a little muddy.
Is that okay? All right.
Because it could have been something where he was framed.
Right.
Which could make sense. It also makes sense, the idea that this was something that went south. And
that's kind of what I'm thinking. I mean, obviously, now look, man, once again, let me say it, Puds. I don't know, man. I fucking don't know. I know it's tragic.
What turned? What exactly turned from that moment where it was supposed to be one thing to going totally to something totally different?
Now, the idea that it was Fast and Furious linked was something that emerged very early on after it happened. But when the picture started really sort of revealing itself in full, like, as a composite picture, rather, that was where the Saudi narrative sort of picked up.
Started coming in. Because I know when I read what you posted, it blew my fucking mind. Because not only was it just, it almost sounds like a fucking movie, man. I mean, really, it does. It sounds like Smoking Aces or some shit, you know. But the way that these people were connecting the times, and they had the footage to show how all this stuff, theoretically, man, I think this is the absolute definition of conspiracy theory, because this is theory.
It is.
It's absolute theory, and it's obviously conspiracy, you know. But man, to me, as far as any modern situations that I've heard that had a theory attached to it, this is the one that fascinated me the most.
Right.
You know, it took that hotel, I don't even know how long, well over a year, after people going online and saying, why haven't you released any footage of him even in the hotel?
Yeah.
And then I believe it was around a year later, a year to the date, where they put out footage of him getting in an elevator. And it was never something that was really even put up on the news. It was just something that popped up online in a number of places.
Right.
And then all these people said, you had a year to make this.
Right, man. Why are you waiting this long to come out with it now? Like, there's a lot of
this could be Photoshop. This could be anything.
Fuck yeah, man. Fuck yeah. Especially after a year. Hell yeah, man. You can produce all kinds of shit in a year. Well, you know, guys, man, I tell you, that one was one I really wanted to get into today.
We can get further into it for sure.
Absolutely. Yeah. Like I said, man, this is just we're just wetting our toes right now, man, getting into all this stuff. But you know, Mike, I know we're probably getting close to Game Swap opening up, man. So we got some questions for the Reverend here that we want to get to, definitely. Absolutely. And before we go any further, once again, Ben, or Reverend Doctor, excuse me, brother. I'm gonna drop the real name every once in a while. Thank you again for coming, man. Before we start wrapping this thing up, I just want to tell you that I appreciate it. This has been I can't speechless, man. I'm speechless.
I know.
This has just been something else. But Mike, you got some questions that you wanted to ask?
Absolutely.
Man?
Well, I know I've got one right off the bat. Then we'll get to the other ones right quick. I'd always want to know, because I feel this way a lot. Sure, it's your last day on Earth. You know you're gonna go, or you've already expired, and you want to know that one question, what is the truth behind this one conspiracy? What is the absolute truth behind it? I just want to know the number one. What conspiracy is it?
Ooh.
It's a tough one.
That's a hard one, bro.
I talked to you about this the other day.
We talked about this one, yeah.
You know, if there's one, I would say, do I want to know what actually happened? And then I get the truth. Either I'm bummed out about it,
right,
for not thinking what I believed happened
to be true, right?
Yeah, or it's just you get bummed out about it because
because it happened.
It's
true.
True.
It happened, right? Either way, man, you're kind of fucked. Either way, man, it's damn.
But you have to know. You have to know this one. You can only know this one.
Which one would it be? That's a hell of a question.
Well, I'll answer it by phrasing it as a question to both of you. In your opinion, who's the power behind the throne on the world scene?
Wow. That's
God,
huge.
That I mean, and there it
That
is.
doesn't get any bigger than that.
And that's it, man. That's really, I think,
Yeah.
what it boils down to. That fuck you, because I was gonna say aliens. I would have been like, I like to know if
Okay.
aliens are real. You know, I'm a huge, you know,
Right.
I'm into stuff like that. But I think that one is the fucking question, man. I mean, it's like, who is the power?
Yeah.
Is it the president? I don't think so.
No.
No, not really. I mean, obviously he's powerful.
I think it goes
obviously.
deeper than the Rothschilds, man.
On down the fucking line, man. We will definitely, man, Reverend, next time you're on here, we're definitely getting to the Rothschilds, the Illuminati. I kind of wish we got on it today, but we this is not.
That's
last
the
time.
subject for a show in and of
Oh
itself.
yeah, man. The next time that you're on, we'll probably do Illuminati or something like
Black
that.
nobility.
This is a good.
Yes,
Yeah.
yes.
This is a good, introduction to the subject.
Yes.
This is kind of like a floater, like a little taste testing of all the
There you
conspiracies.
go, like a sampling, man. A
Yeah,
sampling.
just like a sample
Yes.
platter. This is the introduction to it, And guess what? We're gonna have the main courses later on down the line.
Right.
That
Little
you-
appetizers.
This was the appetizers.
The
Yeah.
appetizers, man. In other
Yeah.
words, we trying to get Pudville woke.
Right.
And there ain't but one motherfucker I know who's gonna wake up fucking Pudville, and that's the Reverend Doctor.
That's right.
That's the
There you
man
go.
that's in the house.
Yeah.
That's what's up.
Now, this is something we do for all the guests. Come on. I had to modify it a little bit from the original top 3 threes to the top 3 fives.
Okay. All
Just
right, man.
because,
So we upgrade.
Yeah.
All right.
There's so much going on and so much, that's been added to our PUD agenda.
That's some shit.
The PUD agenda.
PUD agenda. I love
We've
it,
had
man.
to add on 2 more. So, Ben, I'm going to hit you with these top 3 wrestlers of all time. Your favorite top 3 wrestlers.
Can I say Roman Reigns 3 times?
Absolutely.
Oh, my.
Absolutely, you
No.
can.
Are you that big old Reigns?
Not really.
Oh, man.
Hey, but here in Pudville, man, anything
Hey,
goes.
Joey Ryan.
Easy. What a dick.
Damn, man. Top 3s are.
It's tough,
that
man.
is a
It
bitch.
is.
It's
right
tough.
there.
It is.
It really is.
I'm gonna put Ric Flair up there
Got to, man. You got to.
for all kinds of reasons.
Absolutely.
Let's see. Let's go with Undertaker.
All right. Good call. That's a good call.
And I almost want to do a new one, but man, you know what I'm talking about. That's
Oh,
you really can't.
brother, trust us.
Oh, yeah.
That's a weekly theme.
Yeah. Fuck it, I'm gonna go with Andre.
Got to,
Wow.
man. That's a fucking
Yeah.
solid top
Solid.
3, brother.
Yeah.
Solid.
sure.
Yeah. That's
No
a good
doubt.
one. Absolutely.
All right. Let's see. Top 3 musicians / bands.
Man, we were talking about this a little bit outside. I'm a huge hip hop head going way back. For my number 1, I'm gonna say it's a close tie between Public Enemy and NWA.
Well, you know how I feel about those
Yeah.
guys, man.
Yeah.
Fucking legends.
What's your
Legends.
favorite Public Enemy track?
Probably Welcome to the Terror Dome, man.
Welcome to
That
Terror
one,
Dome.
that one gets me the fuck off, man.
Yeah.
That one always gets me the fuck off. Burn Hollywood Burn's a good one, man. You got fucking Ice Cube and goddamn, who's the other? Is it Kool Moe Dee? No.
Big Daddy Kane.
Big Daddy
Yeah.
Kane. Yes, man. They're all this shit, dude. I almost just look at his albums like just Fear of a Black Planet. Just
Yeah.
put that motherfucker on and let it ride, man.
I have a hard time picking Black Steel and Hour Chaos.
That's good.
Fight the Power.
Fight the Power.
Those are
man.
probably
Yeah,
like
yeah,
2 of the
yeah.
top ones, but then you also got Night of the Living Bassheads,
Bassheads,
Rebel
that-
Without a Pause.
Yeah, man.
It,
Everything they did, man. That group, one of the
Yeah.
most important groups. Of all
their
time.
first 4
Absolutely.
albums are perfect.
Fucking yes, yeah, man. I mean,
Yeah.
they're the gauge. They're the fucking gauge.
Yeah.
And NWA, man, come on, straight out of Compton. Fuck, come on.
Yeah.
Show me
Um,
something
Yep.
better than that.
Let's say
Come on.
my number 2. I'm gonna do a tie again. I'm gonna say a tie between the Clash and Joy Division.
Cool,
Nice.
cool.
Love Joy
There's
Division.
so many honorable mentions. For my number 3, you know what? When I was coming up, it was the late '80s, early '90s, and so the stuff that was really big back in those days. I'm not really big into punk or metal, really.
Right.
the stuff I keep coming back to over and over again, just in shit I listen to on my own, is a lot of the rock music that came around at the time and all the hip hop that came out. I'm gonna go with Nirvana for my number 3.
All right.
Yeah, I
That's
mean, even
solid,
though they're
man.
not a band I listen to all the time, just from the time when I was coming up as a kid.
Nobody was bigger, man.
Yeah.
I mean, nobody was
At
bigger
that
than Nirvana
time,
at that time.
for
I mean,
sure.
for real, man. They did change the landscape. I mean, they did, and I'm just glad we got to experience that. I don't know if the kids coming up today will actually have a musical movement like we
Right.
had.
Yeah,
because we
for
had
sure,
grunge and hip
for
and
sure.
gangster rap, man. Both of
Yeah.
them, and even industrial.
That was a
Well,
huge
that's
All
it's
that,
something
man.
you'll never see happen again.
No.
And
I'll say, like we talked before, that came out of that Bush era.
Yeah.
It's just,
Yeah.
Absolutely, you're right, man. Absolutely.
well, the music industry's totally different now because
Yeah.
downloading, really, I mean, for better or worse, it's made music way more convenient.
Sure,
And it's putting
sure.
it back in the consumer's hand, but at the same time, it killed the traditional record industry and
Yeah.
MTV.
Exactly.
So
man.
there will never be a hype machine the way there was then.
No. We got to experience it really at its peak, and honestly, man, as it burned out. I mean, it burned bright.
Right.
But
Yeah.
man, we got
Yeah.
to experience it, and that's awesome.
Yep. Let's see. Next top 3 movies.
That's almost harder than music.
It is.
It is, man. I'm
It
telling
really
you.
is.
Well, let me ask this for both of you: what are your top 3s?
Oh, for movies?
Yeah.
Oh man.
We did that last.
yeah.
I know. I went back on mine and I was like, "Well, I forgot this movie. I forgot this movie."
You went for the
And
classics,
I
Mike.
did.
You went for like Citizen Kane and shit. I'm like, I ain't never seen that shit. I mean,
Citizen Kane, Phantasm.
Phantasms.
Wow, what was my other one on that one? I've almost already forgotten.
I can't remember.
Holy crap. And then I started thinking later. I was like, oh well, shit, I didn't say that one.
This one, and
This one, and it's tough. It is. It's really,
It is.
really tough.
I know one of my top 3 that me and Ben have one in common. Well, I don't know if it's in your top 3, but it's definitely, hell, it might be my top, man. That's Dazed and Confused.
That's
Yeah.
a good
I
one.
love that fucking movie.
That's one you can go back. I go back and watch it about once a year, honestly.
Me too.
Because one of the things I've found is that it's billed as a movie about high school, but it's not a teen movie. It's about how you remember high school.
Exactly, man.
Yeah.
Exactly.
You
And,
can look at that movie, and especially if you grew up in a small town, you can look at every single
Fuck
character and
yes.
say, I know that person.
You're damn right, man.
Right.
Yeah, especially in a
Yeah.
football town. Like
Yeah.
Lincoln's a football town in that movie. Oh God
Yeah.
Almighty,
Yeah.
man, you can so relate to it. Fear and Loathing is in my top 3.
Yep.
And probably Empire Strikes Back, man. Just to be
Yeah.
honest with you, just to
Yeah.
take it back, because that movie meant so much to me as a kid and even as an adult.
Yeah.
That's my top 3, man. It's hard for me to put any of those over the other one, but I
Yeah.
can almost break out Dazed and Confused. I have to be in the mood for Fear and Loathing, and even for Empire, I have to be in the mood. I could put in Dazed and Confused, man. I could put it on right now.
Yeah.
The best way I could explain it is I sort of like a cross between really lowbrow shit and really highbrow
Yeah,
shit.
right on.
And it seems like when a movie's able to combine those two in a way that's interesting to watch, I
Right.
guess,
Yeah.
those tend to end up becoming my favorite movies. A good example I could give of that would be Blade Runner, would be Videodrome.
Videodrome's fucking great, man.
Wow.
Yeah.
Great.
Movies like that, or God, let's see, Kids, Gummo. Have you ever seen those?
Yep.
But, and I haven't seen
Yeah.
Gummo, but Kids was
Yeah.
tremendous, man.
Gummo's gonna be. I'm gonna go
Yeah.
ahead and say that's one of my top 3.
Now I have to go back and check that one out.
Yeah.
I'm not familiar with that one. Kids was the shit, man.
Yeah.
That was almost like the quintessential '90s movie.
Yeah.
It really was, man. I got no legs. All right. Anyway, that shit
Yep.
stuck with me, man. I mean that dude coming on the skateboard flipped me the fuck out. But great, yeah. That's some good calls, man. Good
Yeah.
selections. This next one though, I want to know is your top 3 books.
Yeah.
That was the one I'm looking forward to
Yeah.
hearing.
All right, I'm gonna phrase that as a question again, you guys, because I haven't heard the segments where y'all both explain it.
Oh man, mine. I don't read a lot. I'm just gonna be honest
Right,
with you,
right.
unless they're fucking math books or physics books, which I can get a little. Yeah. Anyway, I haven't read for entertainment in a while. I can truly say. Probably A Time to Kill is my favorite. The John Grisham book. They made that into a great movie as well.
Mhm.
That book was fucking amazing. Let's see. I'm a big Carl Hiaasen fan. I'd say Skin Tight's probably my second favorite because in my opinion, that was his best book. And honestly, man, my third choice is a Star Trek book. It was called Crossover. Not really deemed that great, but man, it was the next generation and the old generation novel, and I loved it, man. I read it, and it was, yeah. I gotta go with my top 3 on that one.
Right.
Nothing too philosophical or too deep or anything,
I think, what did I say? The Stand.
That's a good one.
Stephen King's
I've
The
never been
Stand.
able to finish The Stand.
Really?
Yeah.
Son of a
I
bitch.
was-
I've picked it up a number of times over the years, and I make a little dent in it. And
It's a huge book.
God damn,
But
man.
I stayed
Yeah.
with it. I stayed with it and knocked it out. I love it.
I finished it
Absolutely
too, yeah.
love that.
Took me 5 years, but goddamn, man.
Yeah.
Felt like it.
Hunter Thompson's Hell's Angels.
Okay.
That was another one of my favorites. That one for me somehow that one grabbed me more than anything else.
Really? Right. Well, I
that
mean,
he did.
Hunter.
I mean,
fuck.
everything else he did was fantastic. But for
Obviously.
some reason, that one just got me.
Right.
And gosh, what was the third one? Oh boy.
See, the doctor got us on the damn seat now.
Yeah.
I know.
I flipped it.
Flipped the script on us,
Gosh,
brother.
Wow, I can't even remember the third one right offhand.
But some good. I mean, I
Wow.
can't remember what it was either, brother. Hell, I was here when you said it, man.
I know.
Fuck, I don't remember shit.
I know. Wow.
The Holy Bible.
No, well, yeah. It's a good story. Wow, I can't remember right offhand what else it was.
I can't remember either, brother. I don't know.
And I'm gonna kick my ass. I won't ask for it for not. That's crazy. Yeah. Yeah.
Fill in the blank on this
Fill
one,
in the
man.
blank on that one. We'll go back to the
We'll figure it out.
episode.
Yeah, we'll figure out which
Yeah.
episode it's
Yeah.
on.
I don't. Well, I don't read a ton of fiction. The authors I really like a lot from the fiction I do read. When I do, is I like William S. Burroughs. I like J.G. Ballard. I like both of those guys a lot. God, let's see. I read a lot of religious or theological books. I mean, I'm not going to do any kind of pretentious shit and try to say, okay, yeah, my top 3 books are the King James Bible.
Thank you.
The Lotus Sutra, the Quran, all that.
Right.
Thank you for that.
Yeah. God. Okay, one of them I'm going to say is I'm going to do a tie. Thus Spoke Zarathustra and Will to Power by Nietzsche.
Okay. I don't
See.
know either one of those. Yeah. Man, you were educating some PUDs today. I'm over here like, I have to look this. I want to look this stuff up.
And yeah, that's part of the show, man.
Fuck yeah.
Just put stuff out there. Just say, hey, check this out.
Hell, absolutely,
Yeah.
man. Yes, absolutely.
Maybe you never checked out.
I'm gonna
Maybe
say,
you never heard.
Right.
I'll throw a fiction in. What the hell? I'll say Naked Lunch by William S. Burroughs.
I read that when I was younger, man. I don't remember much from it, but it was wild. What I
Yeah.
do remember.
And for my number 3, I'll do a tie and sort of tie into the show. I'm going to say Behold a Pale Horse by Cooper.
Nice. Yeah.
And
I
I'm
was
going to
out-
say Decline of the West by Oswald Spengler.
Nice.
Okay.
Like I said, going back to that Behold a Pale Horse, in my opinion, especially for me personally, for sure, that's like the Bible of conspiracy theories.
It is.
That was what introduced me. And what was the other ones, Mike?
All right, the last one, top 3. Conspiracy / mystery.
I think we should all do this one since Ben's here. Let's all discuss that one.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
I'll go first then.
You
Fuck
go
it, man.
first.
I want to
Oh.
go first, man, because yeah, man. So number 3, I'm gonna try to go from my bottom to the top. I guess number 3, man. I'll start with JFK because that's probably the first time I've even heard of a conspiracy theory.
Yeah.
Even William Cooper, man, that was a big one of his.
Absolutely.
The second would be the Illuminati / Freemason because that's the classic. I mean, you can't beat the classics, And the Reptilians, man, 100%, dude. That is my all-time favorite. Just, yeah. I mean, wherever you're talking like their songs or something, but the Reptilians, brother. The first time I even heard that, I laughed, and then I started.
I think
watching
everybody
it.
does.
Yeah. But the way I'll give David Icke credit, because I do think it's complete horseshit. Honestly, I think it's David Icke.
Yeah.
God bless him, brother. I mean, that's some creative shit, and it was compelling. You know, I'll give him his props.
For whatever reason, I mean, it's one people attach to.
It is. I mean, it's so outrageous, and I just
It's sort of like flat Earth.
Y'all,
Yeah.
Jesus, man. We'll definitely won't get into that right now. That's definitely for the
Yeah.
next one.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
What about you, Mike? You got 3?
Yeah. Let's see. The first one's gonna be a tie. Obviously, UFOs.
Yeah.
That would have to tie with D.B. Cooper.
Okay. Yeah.
What the
'Cause
hell
nobody
hap-
knows what
the
happened
hell
to him,
happened
man.
there?
Yeah, nobody's figured it out.
What? Yeah, exactly. And I think the second one would be Waco,
Okay.
for sure.
Mhm.
And the third one would be 9/11.
Okay.
That's good. That's a solid list.
That is. Those are both good ones. For mine, it's a hard one. I'm gonna say JFK for my number 1. No, you know what? I'm gonna bump that to number 2. My number 1 is gonna be the Illuminati.
Yeah.
But
That's
see, the thing you sort of have to clarify with Illuminati is, I know there's actually not a group that calls itself the Illuminati.
Exactly.
It's
right,
a pop
right.
culture catch term
Right.
for, you can go in so many different directions with it. So I'm going to say that for my number 1. Where am I at? For my number 3, let's go back to what we were talking about. Let's go back to MKULTRA.
MKULTRA. Man, that's a solid list.
Yeah.
Well, guys.
And you can tie in MKULTRA with, and this will be probably something down the line, with Jonestown, with the Manson family.
All right.
We will definitely get
Oh,
into
yeah.
that stuff
Scientology.
a lot deeper, man.
Yeah.
Well, guys, I got to say, brother, you did not disappoint, man. We knew this one was going to be off the hook.
That's a
and
sermon this
God,
morning on this Sunday morning.
Yeah,
For sure.
I actually got a sermon I could use.
what I
That's
do.
right. That's right.
Doc, brother, thank you, man. We appreciate you coming on here. We
Absolutely.
appreciate you waking us up. Y'all need to get woke out there, goddammit. Now, once again, I've said it before in this podcast, and I just want to end with it. I don't know, Mike. I'm going to speak for you, brother. We don't know on this. I mean, we don't know this shit. We don't know. Everything we talked about could be complete and total horseshit, man. Or it could have some truth to it. We don't know. But we encourage, just like the doctor said, we encourage you. Look for yourself. Don't just listen to this and be like, y'all, you guys are all full of shit.
Right.
Look it
Right.
up.
Yeah.
Also, don't listen and say, man, these guys know what the fuck they're talking about. Now,
Right.
I would say 1 out of the 3 does.
Yeah.
But the PUDs over here, we're
Right.
just, man, we're along
If
for
you
the
want-
ride.
if you wanna come at us
there's
and-
even an ounce of truth to anything,
It-
and it's enough.
it's enough, man, to at least, realize.
It
Right.
ties back to what we've said at least twice already, which is that, don't swallow everything we're saying.
No.
Use this as a platform to research this shit for yourself.
Exactly.
And
Exactly.
if you got an opinion one way or the other about, no, this is horse shit, okay, this is true,
Put it out there.
exactly.
Put it out there. We'll talk about it. Well, y'all can talk about it.
Yeah.
I'm
Find
out of it.
No,
I'm going to
find-
be,
find it.
Yeah.
Look for it.
Look for
Talk
yourself.
about it.
Yeah, I was going to say now one thing moving forward, like on our Facebook page, stuff like that. Now, we can definitely discuss and go back and forth, but we're not going to go into a lot of like bullshit
Right.
on there. You know what I'm saying? But
Right.
like we said, man, look for yourself.
Yeah.
Don't take what we say. Definitely don't take what the PUDs say.
Right.
Goddamn.
Yeah.
Now you can listen to the doctor. And he can get you in the right direction, man. We're just here for the ride. But brother, speaking of rides, it's been a hell of a one. Thank you
has.
again, brother. Thank you. Well, if you guys got anything to say, man, I'm going to go ahead and start, I guess.
Well, we look forward to doing it again.
Oh, yeah.
Absolutely.
Man. Once again, this is not a one-off, and this was fun. This was really fun.
Very
All
much
right.
looking forward to it.
Man, we are too. Well, Puz, I hope you guys enjoyed it, and until next week, y'all have a good one.
And not only that, David, I understand we're right at the end of our program.
No. We have got to
This
go.
has been a great event.
There's some people out there that hate us for this.